On October 10th, in the golden autumn, news of the marriage alliance between the Ling and Li families spread like wildfire, hitting trending topics and causing an uproar in financial circles. At the Li family's villa, "Mom, you and Grandpa actually ganged up to trick me into coming back," Li Weiwei protested indignantly. She had just returned from Barcelona after a flight of over 10 hours. He Qianyun looked at her daughter, who had perfectly inherited her excellent genes, her face full of pride. Her small, melon-seed face was slightly childish, with delicate brows and cherry lips, almond-shaped eyes, faint dimples on her cheeks, skin like white porcelain that seemed to break at a touch, and beautiful long hair casually tied back. She was exquisite to the extreme, with a beauty devoid of any aggression. No beauty could compare to her. She was a pleasure to behold. "Nionieo, Mommy had no choice. You were betrothed to Ling Jue from childhood. Ling family's grandpa is getting old, and the thing he worries about most is his grandson's marriage." Both the Li and Ling families were wealthy merchants and nobility in Ningxing. The Li family's Jingchuan capital and the Ling family's Hua Ling Consortium were two major giants in the financial world, boasting formidable economic power. "But Mom, I'm only 22, and I haven't finished my studies in Barcelona yet." It was better left unsaid. As soon as she mentioned it, he felt exasperated. Li Weiwei was studying abroad, and the family had originally arranged for her to study finance in New York, hoping she could inherit the family business later. Unexpectedly, this little girl ran off to Spain without a word, claiming that painting was her true interest. Because of this, Li's father cut off her financial support, hoping she would admit her mistake, but her stubborn temper was as strong as a mule's. She simply refused to yield. "Don't mention Barcelona to me. If it weren't for your grandmother helping you out, you'd have starved on the streets long ago." Qianyun knew her daughter was easily swayed and responded to kindness, not coercion, so she continued to persuade her gently. "Nionieo, Mom has seen Ling Jue. He's a bit older, but he's handsome and charming. Plus, with the Hua Ling Consortium behind him, how many socialites in Ningxing are eyeing that plum roll? When he comes over later, don't show him a cold face." Li Weiwei was unmoved, leaning languidly against the carved railing of the duplex loft. "Madam, young Master Ling has arrived." Zhang Ma's voice came from downstairs. Though Li Weiwei was resistant inside, she also wanted to see the fiancé her grandfather had arranged for her. It wasn't a big deal to look, but after a quick glance from afar, she almost wanted to break ties with her family. It certainly was a plum roll, but a fatty, greasy one. The man entering looked more than just a bit older than her. He was almost her father's age. He wore a suit and tie, sporting a large pot belly. From her vantage point, his bald head had not a single strand of hair, greasy. Was this selling a daughter for glory? How could Grandpa push her into a fire pit? She watched her mother's enthusiastic expression and retreated repeatedly. Well, and He's perception. Any man with a mouth, 2 eyes, 3 legs, and all 4 limbs intact could be considered presentable. "Nionieo, don't just stand there, come downstairs with Mom." Qianyun took Li Weiwei's hand, wanting to lead her downstairs. But she clung desperately to the rattan chair in the corridor, refusing to let go. "What are you afraid of?" "I'm afraid if I marry him, I'll cheat." "What nonsense are you talking about?" Li Weiwei ran towards her room on the 3rd floor, as if escaping for her life. "My head hurts. I need to adjust to jet lag. You all figure out the rest yourselves." As the sun set, a few rays of golden light filtered through the window curtains, scattering over the sleeping girl. She wore a pure white silk nightgown, like an angel who had fallen into the mortal world, serene and sacred. "Darling, wake up quickly. Your grandpa and dad are downstairs, waiting for you to eat." Qianyun pinched Li Weiwei's delicate cheek, feeling a pang of reluctance at the thought of her marrying so young. "Mom, I'm still sleepy," she mumbled, batting away His hand, turning over and finding a more comfortable sleeping position. "You're already a married woman. You can't be like this at your in-laws' home. Making their whole family wait for you to eat is not how our Li family raises its children." In-laws' home. Li Weiwei was startled awake, suddenly sitting up. The red marriage certificate on the bedside table came into full view. I must still be dreaming. Sleepy-eyed, she rubbed her eyes with her fists. "You're not dreaming. You just registered your marriage with Ling Jue." The wedding preparations are already underway. It's in 3 days. But don't you have to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to register? And take photos and sign? The Ling family wanted to finalize the marriage quickly, so they brought people from the Civil Affairs Bureau to the house just now. Your passport photo was used, and Mom signed for you. You just said it yourself, to let us figure it out. Li Weiwei felt as if she had heard devastating news. Go change quickly and come downstairs. Grandpa has something to tell you. Ling Jue will also come later to pick you up to meet his parents. After He Qinyan left, she thought of that pot-bellied old man again, and her scalp tingled. The red booklet was right there. She didn't even look at it, directly tossing it into the trash bin. On second thought, she might need it for a divorce later, so she picked it up again, pulled open a drawer, and threw it inside. She went downstairs, the elevator going straight to the underground garage. She drove a Lamborghini convertible sports car and sped away. The autumn deepened, and the evening wind was bleak. She stepped on the gas, as if wanting the funjao in her heart to dissipate with the wind. Bang! An ear-piercing collision ripped through the sky. Miss, I was driving straight, wasn't I? How could you hit me even then? The driver from the opposite car got out of his seat to argue with her. Li Weiwei looked at the Rolls-Royce in front of her, knowing she was in trouble. She had only seen this boat tail in magazines. It cost a staggering $28 million US, Rolls-Royce's first top custom-made model. Things were not what they used to be. After her card was frozen, she was financially strapped. Her days of spending lavishly were gone forever. Otherwise, she would have arrogantly thrown money at the driver's face. She got out of the car, looking apologetic. I'm sorry, I just came back to the country, and I'm not very familiar with the roads here. She had specifically worn sunglasses and a mask when she left, fearing dust on the road. Young miss, Madam wants you to come home quickly. The Li family's butler and bodyguards drove up, surrounding her. In a panic, Li Weiwei pushed away the driver she had just argued with and hid in the back seat of the Rolls-Royce. As she secretly breathed a sigh of relief, she felt a piercing gaze fall upon her, as sharp as an eagle's. She turned her head. The man in front of her was breathtakingly handsome, his facial features flawlessly perfect and sharply defined. His thin lips were pressed together, exuding a cold, ascetic aura. Help me. She placed her hope in this man, though she felt the possibility was minimal. The butler saw the Rolls-Royce and showed respect, waving the bodyguards aside. He politely tapped on the car window, which slowly rolled down, and then he bowed. Mr. Ling. Li Weiwei was dumbfounded. If she hadn't been wearing sunglasses and a mask, one would surely have seen the fear and astonishment on her face. The man nodded at him. The butler understood, leading the bodyguards away. Ling, you are? Ling Jue, she stammered. Wasn't he that bald old man? The man lowered his gaze, ignoring her. After the driver got in, the Rolls-Royce bypassed the Lamborghini and continued towards the Li family's villa. Sang has something to say. On the surface, it's a marriage alliance between top financial conglomerates, but in reality, it's the male lead falling in love with the female lead at first sight, blinded by beauty. He lay dormant for half a year, plotting to almost bring down the female lead's family company, then acted as both victim and hero, angrily throwing down 100 billion as a betrothal gift. It's a story of forced possession plus tender conquest, using honey traps, self-harm tricks, counterespionage, all sorts of schemes and enticements to get his little darling wife to stick close. He's extremely possessive and super jealous. In front of others, he's a gentleman, noble, and abstinent. Behind closed doors, he's lewd, clingy, and talkative. The male lead has a built-in B*TCH identifying function. Besides having to prevent rivals from poaching his girl, he also personally steps in to tear down green tea B*cheese. All suffering in the world, the female lead's love is his blatant salvation. Super sweet throughout. I'm so sorry, Ling Jue. Our Weiwei has been spoiled since she was little. I'll go get her now. He Qinyan smoothed things over. When Li Weiwei entered, her footsteps were deliberately heavy, as if she was venting something. Then she went upstairs. Li Zhongming felt his daughter was becoming more and more lawless. Ever since she arbitrarily changed her major, she had been disobedient. After studying abroad for a few years, her temper had also become wild. Li Guoping saw the impatience on his son's face and couldn't help but scold him. This isn't the company. Who are you putting on airs for? I'm the one who tricked Weiwei into coming back. I know she's upset. Are you going to blame me for that too? After being lectured, Li Zhongming's expression softened a bit. He glanced at the living room again. Ling Jue sat upright on the sofa, his face barely concealing his weariness. He greatly admired this son-in-law. In the business world, he was decisive and bold. Since he took over Hua Ling, the conglomerate's revenue had tripled. He was a formidable young talent, on par with Li Songyang. 28 years old, young and promising, a striking figure, no scandals, utterly flawless. Third floor. Nioniao, your father is angry. Hurry up and go downstairs. He Qianyun opened her daughter's room door, only to see her messing with her face in front of the dressing mirror. You don't need to be so serious. My daughter is beautiful even without makeup. Hurry. Li Weiwei turned her head. A bizarre face, covered in dense spots, and a crimson scar stretching from her eyelid to the corner of her mouth, making it unbearable to look at directly. Mom, aren't I ugly like this? Anyone who sees me will lose their appetite, right? Feeling it wasn't enough, she poured the remaining half bottle of liquid foundation onto her hand, preparing to apply it to the other side of her face. What are you messing around with? He Qianyun walked over, pulled out a stack of tissues, and wiped the foundation off her hand. Stop messing around. Your grandfather will get angry soon. And your brother, we've already notified him to come back. Li Weiwei. First floor living room. Grandpa, Dad, Li Zhongming, and Li Guoping simultaneously looked her way. Weiwei, your face. Li Weiwei walked into the living room and knelt at her grandfather's feet. Grandpa, I was watching a bullfight in Barcelona a while ago and got hit. Grandma didn't want you to worry, so she didn't tell you. As she spoke, she squeezed out tears. Upstairs just now, she and Miss. He had reached an agreement. Wipe off the black spots, leaving only the long scar. The photo on her marriage certificate was taken when she was 18, so it was normal for her appearance to have changed in 4 years. If Ling Jue couldn't accept the flaw on her face, then they could go their separate ways. If he didn't mind, she would disgust him every day until he got tired of it and initiated a divorce. That way, her father and grandfather wouldn't blame her, and she could go back to Spain. Li Weiwei cried harder and harder. Her makeup was waterproof, so she wasn't afraid. Li Guoping gently patted his granddaughter's shoulder, comforting her. Grandpa, I definitely can't be a match for young Master Ling like this. How about let's just divorce? The words caught in her throat. She wanted the other party to suggest it. With snot and tears, she glanced at Ling Jue. He watched her unhurriedly, seemingly detached from the conversation. Just as the standoff continued, Li Zhongming spoke up. Ling Jue, our little Wei might not have this good fortune. Li Weiwei inwardly cheered. Done. Uncle Li, when a man marries, he marries for virtue. Weiwei is the wife arranged for me by our elders. I will not let her down. Jing Chuang and Hua Ling still have many collaborations, and the invitations have already been sent out. If the wedding isn't held as planned, it will be impossible to handle the aftermath. When Li Weiwei heard him say all this with such righteous conviction, she cried even harder. Now, it was beyond her help. Hey, Weiwei, what's wrong now? Don't cry, don't cry. Tell Grandpa what's bothering you. Dad, little Wei is crying tears of joy. Li Zhongming quickly helped her up and made her sit next to Ling Jue. He favored this son-in-law even more now. After a few brief pleasantries, Ling Jue took her back to Qianyuan to formally meet his family elders. Why do you insist on marrying me? Don't you think I'm unsightly with how I look? Her voice was melodious and clear, tinged with confusion, but mostly dissatisfaction. In the Rolls-Royce, Li Weiwei was completely bewildered and finally asked. Just as she thought he wouldn't answer, his thin lips parted, and his voice was low. I'm marrying the daughter of Jing Chuang. Brief and to the point. His meaning couldn't be clearer. Regardless of her appearance or personality, as long as she was the eldest daughter of Jing Chuang capital, it was fine. A moment of silence. The car slowly entered Ningqing's affluent district. Before they left earlier, her mother had roughly told her about the Ling family's situation. The Ling family had a small family line. Ling Jue's grandfather was already in his 70s and had retired from the conglomerate 2 years ago, officially handing Hua Ling over to his eldest grandson. His parents had died young. He also had a paternal aunt who had married out, but she and her 2 children were permanently residing at Qinyuan. To keep the old man happy, they had even taken the Ling family surname, named Ling Yuan and Ling Man. When they entered, only old Master Ling was home. This must be Guoping's granddaughter, right? He was amiable and not at all frightened by the terrifying scar on her face. After you get married, move to Qinyuan with Aju. The house won't be so deserted then. He travels a lot for business and isn't often home. Li Weiwei muttered inwardly. Asterisk, not coming home is fine. Just don't suddenly come home. Asterisk. Ling Zhengqing then briefly inquired about her life in Barcelona. Knowing she studied painting, he even offered to contact an art school in Ningqing for her to continue her studies. Grandpa, I have a business trip tomorrow. For the wedding preparations, I'll trouble you to take care of them. Ling Jue interjected abruptly. I'm going to Singapore and will be back the night after tomorrow, so it won't delay the wedding. This Asia-Pacific Expo was jointly organized by the local government and the Hua Ling conglomerate, with nearly 200 participating enterprises and banks. Ling Zhengqing knew his grandson was very career-driven, so he didn't say much, only repeatedly instructed him to be sure to return on time. Ling Jue then took Li Weiwei to Yujingwan and gave her a Centurion black card, telling her to buy whatever she needed. Yujingwan was his residence, a detached luxury villa located in the city center. It was already 1 in the morning when they returned to the Li family villa. The journey was bumpy, and Li Weiwei didn't sleep soundly, resting her head on Ling Jue's arm. Her figure was petite, and her loose, light pink knee-length dress revealed her slender, smooth shoulders and well-proportioned, long, beautiful legs. The scar on her face had absorbed some of the makeup, making its color lighter. Her long, curly eyelashes trembled slightly. She subconsciously licked her lips, whimpered softly, and clung to him like a koala. Her rose-petal soft, dewy red lips parted slightly, as if inviting him to pluck them. His Adam's apple bobbed. As if possessed, he lowered his head and plundered that trace of spring. My hazy moonlight poured down, its clear glow spilling into the car. The tree shadows outside the window shortened. His voice was mellow and soothing, blending with the night. The wedding banquet of the Ling and Li families was held at the Global International Hotel in Ningqing, with no shortage of political and business luminaries arriving to offer congratulations. The wedding makeup artist this time was Ella, a chief makeup artist renowned both domestically and internationally, and also Li Weiwei's best friend from Spain. Weiwei, the makeup on your face isn't as realistic as the ghost bride you did last Halloween, she teased, wanting to remove the grime from the bride's face and reapply her makeup. A woman is most beautiful on her wedding day. If the groom sees you like this, he'll be scared away. Li Weiwei didn't mind. She wished Ling Jue would be scared away. The ceremony was scheduled to begin at noon, and with 2 hours to go, the groom was nowhere to be seen. Li Songyang, dusty from his journey back from London, went directly into the bride's dressing room. Xiaowei, it's been half a year since Big Brother last saw you. Through the makeup mirror, he saw the girl in the reflection with a distorted face. Who is this ugly monster? He feigned exaggeration. Li Weiwei turned around and glared at him. Unlike Ling Jue's distant and aloof coldness, Li Songyang was refined and humorous. They had studied at the same school in London years ago and were often compared. Both were favored sons of heaven. After graduation, Ling Jue returned home to start from the ground up in the family business, while he used family resources to thrive abroad. Xiaowei, according to a reliable source, your husband's plane just took off from Singapore. You've been stood up. Li Weiwei felt both joy and annoyance upon hearing this. The groom's absence from the ceremony would bring shame upon her and cause the Li family to lose face, which was a perfect opportunity to annul the marriage. Big Brother has thought of a way for you. A hint of calculation flashed in Li Songyang's eyes as he whispered a few words into her ear. Isn't that bad? Dad will break my legs later. No, I know Dad. He'd rather see a situation like this. Besides, if he tries to hit you, I'll be there to block him. Mom will be there to persuade him. And if all else fails, Grandpa will protect you. Night fell. Meat bar. Li Weiwei opened Weibo's trending topics for the 63rd time. Public opinion was overwhelming. Hashtag rich family marriage crisis. Hashtag where does this sky-high betrothal gift go? Hashtag Ling's absent from wedding. Hashtag Li family princess mysteriously missing. Hashtag Li Ling families announce wedding postponed. Hashtag plain-looking bride-groom regrets marriage and flees. Li Weiwei and Ella had left the global international hotel together, had lunch, went on a shopping spree, then returned to Ella's duplex apartment in Ningxing to get ready again, and on a whim, came to the bar. Weiwei, did you offend Ling Yuan? How could she blacken your name like this, slandering you in front of media friends, saying Ling Jue regretted the marriage because you're ugly? Ella spoke up for her. To say Li Weiwei was plain-looking, then there would be no beautiful women in the world. In Barcelona, she always went out barefaced, and the men who approached her over 2 years, if gathered, would not fit in the entire Camp Nou stadium. Before going out, Ella had specifically given her a cool Korean smoky eye makeup, paired with a vibrant red strapless tight mini dress that accentuated her curves, revealing alluring collarbones. Her makeup was delicate and beautiful, yet conveyed a world-weary detachment, a true goddess in human form. Don't stare at me like that. I'm only interested in men. Ella couldn't stand her alluring gaze. Dressed up, she was mesmerizingly enchanting. Her natural beauty, when barefaced, could ignite any man's possessive desire. Her stunning allure, when made up, could ignite any man's desire for conquest. If I were Ling Jue, the first time I saw you, I'd have forced myself on you. You enchantress, see where you can run. Li Weiwei remembered that night. She had fallen asleep in his car and woken up already at home. Her mother said he had carried her upstairs. A suspicious blush crept onto her face. She had woken up when he placed her on the bed. The man had stood by her bed for a while, and before leaving, had gently kissed her forehead. Don't talk nonsense. He's not that kind of indecent person. She tried to cover it up, picking up the cocktail from the booth and downing it. Her face and ears flushed, unsure if it was the alcohol or that kiss on her forehead. Ella scoffed, clinging to the topic. It's not about being decent or not. Could he be impotent? A hole-in-one means either the hole is blocked or the club is crooked. Li Weiwei rushed to cover her mouth, not wanting her to speak carelessly anymore. The bar was bustling with noise, lights flickered erratically, music was deafening, and men and women on the dance floor wildly swayed their hips, the scent of perfume and alcohol mingling. It was decadent and noisy. Ella sharply noticed the male lead from the trending topics walking towards them, his face gloomy. She wanted to warn the oblivious Li Weiwei, but with her mouth tightly covered, she couldn't say anything. How would I know if Ling Jue is capable or not? And it's none of my business if he isn't. Just shut up. A shadow fell over her. A cold scent, vaguely familiar. Her heart leaped to her throat. It was that oppressive feeling. Li Weiwei, go home. Boom. Her mind went blank. As she looked up, she released her hand. His brows were tightly furrowed, showing impatience and an aura of aggression. Weiwei, I was just about to tell you your husband was here. Ella whispered into her ear, taking a deep breath in and out. Asterisk, my lord, there's more to this chapter. Please click next page to continue reading. It gets even better. If you like, the day I returned home, the rich heir dragged me to get married. Please bookmark it. Shahage. Net. The day I returned home, the rich heir dragged me to get married. Is updated fastest on Shahage Novel Network. Asterisk. Ling Jue's face fell when he saw her heavy makeup and revealing attire, and it darkened further when he heard her crude and frivolous words. The dignified young mistress of the Ling family, the CEO's wife of Hua Ling, behaving so improperly and without self-respect. He took off his black suit jacket, wrapped it around her, and scooped her up into his arms. Seeing him like this, Li Weiwei felt timid and cast a pleading look at Ella. Being taken away by him, she feared the worst. Ella dared not offend this aggressive man. She had dug her own grave by covering her own mouth earlier, leaving her unable to speak. The question of whether Ling Jue was capable might just be answered tonight. Probably. Li Weiwei's waist was tightly gripped. He walked quickly and urgently, jostling her uncomfortably. After all, she had been raised in luxury and couldn't endure such torment. She clutched onto Ling Jue's shoulder and bit down hard. He hissed, stopping his steps, and faint bloodstains seeped through his white shirt. Li Weiwei had put all her strength into that bite. Put me down. She struggled and twisted in his arms. Ling Jue actually let go. The woman in his arms fell directly to the ground. Bastard, that hurt like hell. She rubbed her buttocks in pain, stood up, pulled off the jacket draped over her, threw it on the ground, and even stomped on it twice. Dropping me just like that. What a real man you are not. Ling Jue's expression turned terrifyingly grim at her words. He directly hoisted her onto his shoulder with one hand, while his other hand pulled down her skirt hem, then covered it with his forearm to prevent her from being exposed. Whether I'm a man or not, you'll find out later. Asterisk if you like, the day I returned home, the rich heir dragged me to get married. Please bookmark it. M. Shahaj. Net. The day I returned home, the rich heir dragged me to get married, is updated fastest on Shahaj Novel Network. Asterisk. Miss Li, you're awake. Li Weiwei opened her eyes and looked in the direction of the voice. A woman in a black business suit stood by the bed. Her makeup was impeccable, and she was serious and unsmiling, exuding a capable and composed aura. This is what President Ling instructed me to prepare. In her hands, she held a tube of ointment and new clothes. Naked under the covers, Li Weiwei's mind flashed with the blush-inducing, wild scenes from last night. Her whole body was sore and soft, numb, and aching as if she'd been run over by a car. She tried to stretch her hand out from under the quilt to take the intimate clothing and put it on first. Hiss! She sucked in a breath, too weak to even lift her hand. Jiang Yin noticed the red and purple intimate marks on her neck and shoulders and mused. Ling Jue really went overboard with his torment. You can go out first, Li Weiwei said hoarsely, glancing around. This was at Imperial View Bay, and the bedroom's decor was as stiff and bland as its owner. No, that scoundrel was wild and unrestrained in bed last night. All his daytime dignity and composure had gone to hell. Afterward, to get a dig in, she had mocked him for his poor technique, and he had retorted that she was crude and tasteless, without any delight. Crude and tasteless? Then why did he torment her until dawn? And what was this situation now? After he was sated, he sent another woman to attend to her. Jiang Yin put down the ointment and clothes and indeed left, closing the door behind her. Girls this age cared about their pride. Li Weiwei endured her physical discomfort, threw off the quilt, and got out of bed. The moment her feet touched the floor, she collapsed directly onto the ground. She reached out and tugged the blanket from the bed, wrapping herself tightly in it. Her wallet and phone were left at the bar last night, and she didn't know what was happening at home. She managed to get dressed. Then, not wanting to go out, she lay back on the bed and continued to sleep. She slept until 6 in the afternoon. She was woken by hunger. A maid had knocked on the door at noon to bring her food, but she had refused, not wanting anyone to see her disheveled state. President Ling, Miss Li still won't come out. Jiang Yin was Ling Jue's junior from their time studying in London. After graduation, she chose to return to China and became his capable assistant at work. His attitude was cold, without any emotional fluctuations. Secretary Jiang, you can go back first. After saying this, he turned the doorknob of the bedroom and went inside. When Li Weiwei saw who it was, she buried herself in the quilt again, forming a slight lump on the bed. He walked to her bedside, reached directly into the quilt, pulled her out, then gripped her slender ankle, picked up the ointment from the bedside table, and hooked her bent leg over his arm. What are you doing? He wasn't gentle at all, applying medicine. His face was calm, without a blush or heavy breathing, as if this were a very common thing. Li Weiwei broke free from his grip, snatched the ointment from his hand, and threw it away. Don't touch me. If you touch me again, I'll sue you for marital rape. It's marital duty. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at if you say that out loud? Ling Jue pulled a chair to the bedside, took out a cigarette and a lighter, casually lit it, took a puff, and eyed her. His sleeves were rolled up casually, his forearms slightly lowered, bony fingers holding the cigarette as he puffed out smoke, his deep eyes holding an intriguing glint. She continued to wrap herself in the quilt. After a long while, the cigarette burned out. He took her phone from his pocket, placed it on the bedside table, and then got up and left the bedroom. Li Weiwei heard his footsteps fading into the distance before she finally peeked out from under the quilt and reached for her phone. Unlocking the screen, the first thing she did was open Weibo. Yesterday's trending topics had already been removed. She was puzzled. She hadn't returned home all night, yet her family was unusually calm. She opened WeChat, wanting to send a message to Mrs. He. The message with the white frame had been sent yesterday. Nioniao. With Ling Jue there, Mom feels relieved. So, they knew she was with him yesterday? How carefree, to say they were relieved. Her daughter had been chewed to the bone last night. Weiwei dragged her weary body to the bathroom, wanting to take a hot bath to relax. In the full-length mirror, she looked like a complete wreck. There wasn't a single good spot on her body. She had cried and made a fuss last night, and her makeup was ruined. Even like this, he was still acting like a brute, a pervert. The bathtub was filled with hot water, and she lay down in it. Steam rose, a thin mist like a veil, enveloping a figure of fair skin and delicate bones. She closed her eyes to rest, feeling comfortable. She thought, once she got herself together, she would return to the Li family villa. A creak. The bathroom door opened. Ling Jue had left and returned. He stared intently at her. After a moment, his eyes reddened, and his Adam's apple bobbed up and down. Get out. Li Weiwei's heart skipped a beat. She crossed her arms, shielding her exposed chest. It's not like I haven't seen it before. He walked unhurriedly towards her, bent down, hooked her chin, and made her look directly at him. Her face was flushed from the heat, making her feel uneasy. Her languid eyes were filled with shyness, her form as graceful as a lotus emerging from water, her mutton-fat, jade-like skin crystal clear, covered in intimate marks. All left by him last night. Ling Jue said nothing, released her, and turned to leave. Li Weiwei breathed a sigh of relief. She knew she had just escaped a calamity. At the Li family home. You little rascal, if it weren't for your help, could Xiaowei really fly up to the sky and escape? Li Zhoming picked up the cushion beside him and threw it. Li Sanyang deftly blocked it, and the cushion bounced to the floor. Still dodging, he then picked up the tea set beside him, about to throw it at him. He Qinyan quickly stopped him. Zhoming, given the situation back then, if Xiaowei hadn't left, how could you expect her to face it? You know how reporters twist things, you've experienced it yourself. They would fabricate stories, saying our daughter was the daughter-in-law the Ling family didn't want. She snatched the porcelain cup from his hand and shielded it behind her. Those who knew understood that Ling Jue was delayed by work and couldn't make it to the wedding. But those who didn't would think my daughter was truly rejected. Speaking of this, she got angry. That granddaughter of the Ling family had actually leaked to the media that their daughter from the Li family was ugly, which scared the groom-to-be into backing out at the last minute. Li Zhoming let out a breath. In truth, Ling Jue had informed them in advance that there was an unexpected situation at the Asia-Pacific Expo, and the ceremony had to be postponed. Though he said it was fine, a rift still formed in his heart. For a wedding that garnered worldwide attention, regardless of the reason, the groom's absence at the last minute was a slap in the face to their Li family. So, when he heard the news that the bridal dressing room was empty, he was glad to see it happen. The Li family members tacitly understood, but they didn't know how Li Weiwei had escaped, considering the Li and Ling families had arranged so many security personnel to guard the place. Tell me, how did you get your sister out? Li Guoping had sent his driver to Qinyuan early in the morning to find old Master Ling. Now, only the three of them were left at home. She climbed out the window, Li Sanyang confessed. Li Weiwei, with ropes tied around her, scaled from her balcony to the next room, staying hidden there. She only emerged after everyone realized she was gone and mobilized a search party. The hotel had guards stationed everywhere, layered 3 deep inside and out. The wedding banquet for the Li and Ling families occupied the entire global international hotel. You're really good at giving her ideas. Aren't you afraid she'd fall from the 28th floor? The 28th floor had only 2 presidential suites. 2801 was used as the bride's lounge, and 2802 was reserved for an important guest. They searched the hotel from top to bottom, missing only 2802. All right, Zhongming, our Niao Niao is still with Ling Jue. Should we call her back? After Ling Jue took her from the bar last night, he had informed the Li family not to worry. He Qinyan had taken the call. Why call her back? To infuriate me? She's already the Ling family's granddaughter-in-law now. Just let Ling Jue take good charge of her and properly change those bad habits she picked up abroad. Li Zhongming finished speaking and went upstairs without looking back. Mom, when Dad gets anxious, he even scolds himself. Li Songyang shrugged sheepishly, picked up the throw pillow from the floor, looking like a complete slacker. He Qinyun wasn't in the mood to joke with him. Call your sister and ask her what the situation is like over there. Okay. At the dining table in Yujing Bay, a pink diamond-studded phone rang. Li Weiwei, wearing disposable gloves, grabbed a braised pork hock and gnawed on it with relish. She hadn't eaten all day. Ling Jue sat across from her, his brow bones sharp and distinct, watching her eat without any regard for her image, like a hungry ghost reborn. Take that away. He gestured to a maid to remove the braised pork hock. The maid understood. They had learned from Secretary Jiang today that the beautiful girl before them was the eldest daughter of Jing Chuang and the mistress of Yujing Bay. Seeing the reddish hickeys on her neck and recalling the sounds from the master bedroom on the second floor last night, they couldn't help but blush. Mr. Ling was so intense in bed. Could Mrs. Ling, with her small arms and legs, really withstand several rounds of his affection? The Fur Elise ringtone was still playing. Li Weiwei simply ripped off her disposable gloves and pressed the reject button. She shouldn't have listened to her brother's goading to escape the wedding, gone to the bar with Ella, and then brazenly gotten caught by this man, enduring his demands for an entire night. No, he was absent. She ran away. They were equally bad. Neither had the right to blame the other. Why should she have suffered all that agony last night? Hiss, aching back and sore waist. She watched, wide-eyed, as the bowl of pork hock was taken away, pursed her lips, then picked up her chopsticks to pick at the garlic-flavored shrimp powder. It was taken away. Braised short ribs. Also taken away. Pan-fried eel. Again, taken away. In a short while, all the meat dishes on the table were cleared. She was an absolute carnivore. Now, the table was filled entirely with vegetarian dishes, and she'd lost her appetite. With a clack, she slammed her chopsticks on the table. Is Hua Ling going bankrupt? So stingy, even when eating a meal. The man opposite paid her no mind. He hadn't touched his chopsticks the entire time. You won't let me eat meat, right? Then let's both starve. Li Weiwei felt indignant. She didn't even pick at the vegetables, serving herself a bowl of plain white rice and burying her head to shovel it down. Ling Jue frowned. From childhood, the table etiquette he learned did not permit such a way of eating. Was plain white rice really that delicious? Her small face was almost buried in the bowl. Let's talk properly. Li Weiwei scooped the last small mouthful of rice into her mouth and swallowed it directly without chewing. She picked up the fresh fruit juice next to her, holding the straw and sipping in small sips. The straw was flattened from being bitten. This marriage was a complete farce to begin with. What happened last night? I can pretend it never occurred. In other countries, one-night stands are quite normal. She wiped the rice grains from the corner of her mouth with a napkin. If we announce our marriage and then divorce so publicly, it will also have a negative impact on our companies. So, let's maintain this marriage for a year, and then we can find a random reason, like incompatibility or something else, and part amicably. The man opposite was as handsome as ever, and beneath his well-tailored black shirt were lines of robust pectoral muscles, with faint, bloody red scratch marks scattered up to his neck. He pursed his lips, a bit arrogant, his narrow eyes deep, radiating an ascetic aura. It was those same dark eyes that, last night, had surged with terrifying desire. She resisted, succumbed, indulged, fell. Li Weiwei subconsciously curled her knuckles, glancing at her cat-claw nails, which she'd just had done the day before yesterday. Sure enough, the pinker the nail polish, the harder they scratch. A few tiny crushed diamonds had fallen off during her struggles last night. She'd have to get them redone. If you don't say anything, I'll take it as a yes. She mumbled to herself, her voice nasal, slightly congested. Although the two had already had an intimate relationship, for some reason, seeing him made her a bit nervous, so she could only raise her voice to cover up her inner panic. Ling Jue gave her a sidelong glance, said nothing, and turned to leave the restaurant. He truly was unfathomable. Li Weiwei, clutching her phone, also left Yujing Bay. She walked through a stretch of greenery and hailed a taxi on the street, ignoring the maid's advice, and left. She was dressed a bit thinly. The evening wind was mournful, and withered leaves drifted down. It was only after getting into the car that she felt a little warmer. To Yumin Health and Wellness Center. She had just arranged to meet Ella for a sauna. In the VIP room, an elegant, graceful body lay prone on the beauty bed. She let out a lazy yawn. The masseuse was already in position, diligently busying herself with essential oils nearby. The air was filled with the faint scent of gardenias. She'd slept all day, but was still tired. "Miss Lee, may I begin?" The female masseuse asked eagerly. This was a big client. Just buying a membership card cost millions. She hadn't seen someone so generous in a long time. "Start." Li Weiwei sent Ella another WeChat message to urge her, then casually tossed her phone aside. The masseuse pulled down the large white towel covering her. Her back muscles were toned and shapely, smooth and delicate. Her pale lower back was covered with dense, conspicuous hickeys. This made one's imagination run wild. Young people nowadays really had good stamina and knew how to have fun. The masseuse's pressure was moderate, and her technique was good. Weiwei. Ella walked in and saw this scene. She lay on the beauty bed, her face full of contentment and enjoyment. Then she looked closely at her lower back. TSK. It seemed Mr. Ling was very capable. "Are you lingering here to savor the memory?" she teased. Li Weiwei didn't even bother to lift her eyelids. Clearly had a 419. "You know what 419 means, right?" Ella chuckled mischievously, leaning close to her ear. "Weiwei, had a wild time on your wedding night, huh?" She was completely unconcerned about the stranger nearby and continued to joke. The president's wife of Hua Ling Group ran away from her wedding to go to a nightclub and was even. Li Weiwei opened her eyes, quick as a flash, and covered Ella's lips. A dog's mouth certainly couldn't spit out ivory. The female masseuse paused, subtly pricked up her ears, but continued kneading with her hands, afraid of missing any information. Hua Ling. Wasn't that her boss's family conglomerate? Then this person before her was. This news was truly sensational. So, this wealthy couple didn't even want to go through the motions. Yesterday, public opinion was rampant but was forcibly suppressed, and she thought there was some hidden reason. Which blind person had the gall to slander the bride's looks against their conscience? So the Jingchuang little princess didn't mysteriously disappear. She actually ran off to a bar to cheat and have a one-night stand with some wild man. A woman like that is promiscuous, no matter how good her family background. Marrying her would be a family misfortune. No wonder Mr. Ling was absent. "Miss Ling, I'm absolutely certain that the person in the VIP room just now was the eldest miss of the Li family. You can check the recharge card records." After the masseuse left the room, she ran to the manager's office to claim credit. The staff at Human Health Spa were somewhat aware of why their boss had been so irritable lately. She didn't like this suddenly appearing cousin-in-law. She often said to others that Miss Lu Qingwan, the violinist, was the best candidate for the Ling family's eldest young master's wife. Upon hearing about this, Li Weiwei, Ling Yuan put down the violin in her hand. It was a gift she had reserved with the music shop several months ago, intended for her future cousin-in-law. She was wearing a goose-yellow Chanel skirt suit. Her short hair was neat, and she was pretty, with a pair of narrow, captivating fox eyes, just like Ling Jue. The outer corners of her eyes had a certain curve, slightly upturned, but Ling Jue's eyes gave off an even stronger sense of severity and sharpness. The masseuse vividly recounted everything she had seen and heard in the VIP room earlier. "Are you saying she was secretly messing around with some wild man from a nightclub behind my cousin's back?" Ling Yuan's face was full of disdain. "Those bad influences have all been brought back to the country. A woman so unrestrained, even with the backing of Jingchuang capital, dreams of becoming the mistress of their Li family. Ugly people cause more trouble. Even my servants at home were scared by her that night. I heard half her face is scarred. Only those shady men from nightclubs would do anything for money." Her words were sharp and harsh. "Ugly," the masseuse mused inwardly. This Miss Li was nowhere near ugly. Compared to her, even the female celebrities on posters would feel ashamed of themselves. The graceful and gentle Miss Qingwan, in front of her, seemed like a lone apricot blossom overshadowed by a delicate pink rose. Of course, she didn't dare to say these words aloud. "Then, would you like to go over and say hello? They're still in the private room right now. Does she deserve such an honor? And for me to go?" Ling Yuan put the violin back into its case, which was made from bamboo chopsticks and popsicle sticks, and stood up. Later, she'd call her cousin back too. She wanted him to know what kind of woman he had married. She felt regret. Her cousin and sister Qingyuan were clearly a match made in heaven. One, a talented violinist, the other, an uncultured playboy. That Li Weiwei, what makes her so special? Qingyuan. After Ling Jue retired from Hua Ling Consortium, he idled at home, frequently inviting old Master Li over for a game of chess to pass the time. A servant brought in a fruit platter. Li Guoping was nearby when Ling Yuan called earlier to say she was coming home. "Brother Guoping, are you still writing that novel of yours? Our little Yuan has been completely engrossed in it these past few days. A veteran still has it. Who would have thought that the author of Peak of the Azure Sky, the fantasy novel that topped the online literature charts and click-through rates, was Zhang Tianxia, the former head of Jingchuan Capital?" "Brother Ling," Li Guoping couldn't help but laugh. "I've put down my pen and retired from writing for so many years now. I no longer have the mindset I once did. I can't write anymore." "Then, it's a secret," he said, his smugness evident on his face. Who would believe it if he told them? It was utterly ridiculous. Peak of the Azure Sky had been on hiatus for nearly a decade but resumed serialization half a year ago, with its readership skyrocketing towards the top of the charts. The author himself only found out when the CEO of Chuangwen Group personally visited him and presented him with $1,000,000 in royalties. They had gone to great lengths to investigate and found that the hacker's IP address was in Barcelona. The hacker had not only stolen his account and password, but had also continued writing the story for him. He felt ashamed to accept those royalties and planned to transfer them to his granddaughter's account, but Li Zhongming withheld them. The four barbarian tribes border Kyushu. And then what? Ling Yuan would recount the latest developments in the story to him every time she finished an update. "Heaven's secrets must not be revealed," Li Guoping said, adjusting the frame of his reading glasses. To be honest, how would he know the subsequent plot developments? He was also eagerly following it himself. All right, let's not talk about that for now. Where's my precious granddaughter?" They had told Ling Jue this morning to bring Li Weiwei back to Qingyuan tonight. It was already 8 in the evening, and not a soul had shown up. "The young couple are probably busy cultivating their relationship. They wouldn't have time for us two old men," Ling Jue said, taking advantage of Li Guoping's distraction to checkmate him. "Brother Guoping, you've already lost 3 games in a row to me. Do you want to continue?" No more, he waved his hand. These 3 games had directly cost him a municipal engineering cooperation project. "How about next time we bet on something bigger?" "Oh, what do you want to bet on?" "Let's bet on who, a Jew or Weiwei, will be unable to hold back first. The stake is the naming priority for our future great-grandson." Li Guoping's interest was immediately piqued. "I bet on your Ling Jue." He couldn't believe it if their Li family's little princess couldn't successfully win the person over. "Old man, then I'll have to bet on my granddaughter-in-law." Ling Jue thought of how this marriage was proposed by Ling Jue himself, using the pretext of an engagement since childhood, so he didn't have much confidence in him. But his own grandson was also an outstanding talent, and with his own push, he refused to believe that little girl wouldn't take the bait. "Old master, young Miss Ling is back. She's in the front hall and says she has something important to tell you," the maid Xiaotsue announced as she entered the chess room. In the grand hall on the first floor, an 8-meter-high crystal chandelier hung from the Chinese-style, decorated dome ceiling. It was resplendent and magnificent, the lights bright, illuminating the interior as if it were daylight. "Grandpa, I have something very important to tell you." Ling Yuan turned her head when she heard footsteps and went straight to the point. She wanted to let him know what kind of character the Li family's granddaughter was, but the words caught in her throat. Li Guoping, dressed in a Zhongshan suit, with white hair at his temples but full of spirit, entered the grand hall with old Master Ling. "Hello, Grandpa Li," she greeted respectfully. Jingchuan Capital had only moved its headquarters to Ningxing a few years ago. She liked this amiable elder, especially when she learned he was the author of Peak of the Azure Sky. Her respect for him grew even more. "Xiao Yuan." Ling Jue gestured for her to continue. She had been so anxious on the phone earlier. It must be something important. Nothing really. I just heard Grandpa Li was here and wanted an autograph." She was straightforward. Her love for that novel had reached the point of obsession. Peak of the Azure Sky captivated her, whether it was its world building, power system, character design, or plot. On the reader rankings and donor lists, she was ranked first. Old master, young master. He's brought a woman back, Nanny Yang announced as she entered. Seeing old master Li was also present, she hesitated to say more. The young master was too blatant. Although the wedding hadn't been held as scheduled, they were legally married after all. Now, to brazenly bring a young, beautiful girl back to the old residence, and coincidentally run into the elders of the allied family. What kind of situation was this? She then recalled the young master bringing the eldest miss of the Li family back a few nights ago. That eldest miss of the Li family, though reportedly ugly, wasn't as arrogant and willful as young Miss Ling. She was thoroughly polite. A young lady from a prominent wealthy family truly was different. At Qinyuan's outdoor parking lot, Li Weiwei sat in the passenger seat, refusing to get out. Ling Jue had retrieved her from the health spa half an hour earlier. After the man leaned over to unbuckle her seatbelt, his burning palm slid from her waist to her thigh, body heat transferring, causing a tingling numbness. Ling Jue leaned in greedily, a corner of his mouth curving upwards. This is the feeling of being unable to stop. His eyes were deep and heavy. He lowered his head, kissing her tender pink earlobe, licking it delicately, then moving lower to her fair shoulder blade. MMM. Li Weiwei groaned, both angry and anxious to push him away. A flush of unnatural crimson spread across her delicate face. This man, he doesn't even pick a place when he's in heat. Why does he just? At any moment. This is punishment. Ling Jue's strong, powerful arm pulled her tightly into his embrace, his heavy breath misting her forehead, punishing her for not staying home to rest obediently, and instead running around recklessly. We clearly agreed not to interfere with each other. Li Weiwei finally broke free from him, her heart rate accelerating. Her plump, rosy lips were swollen, appearing pitifully endearing, like blossoming peach flowers in full bloom. Ling Jue got out of the car, walked around to the passenger side, opened the door, and lifted her out by her waist. I can walk myself. Her slender jade fingers, hands like soft catkins, clutched tightly at his black shirt, afraid he would suddenly let go and drop her to the ground like last time. Black and white, strength and softness. Li Weiwei felt useless, completely infatuated. For a brief moment, just now, she even wanted to respond to his tender advances. When his rough fingertips rubbed against her skin, her nerve endings even became uncontrollably excited. Cousin Ling. Ling Yuan eagerly came out from the inner room to greet them. Aunt Yang had just told her that he brought a woman home, and she wanted to go out and inform him that grandfather Li was sitting in the living room. What met her eyes was her cousin, who normally wasn't close to women, intimately holding a girl and walking towards them. The girl pouted, whispering something into his ear, then jumped down to the ground and straightened her clothes. She wore a rose-red strapless long dress, casually draped with a cream-colored knit cardigan. She had long legs and a slender waist, her hair loosely tied up with a wooden hairpin. Her graceful demeanor swayed, charming and captivating, a refreshing sight. Cousin Ling, grandfather Li is in the living room, you. She glanced at Li Weiwei, then completely ignored her. I know. Ling Jue took Li Weiwei's hand, fingers intertwined, and walked towards the house. His hand was clearly jointed, dry, and strong. Ling Yuan was also someone who couldn't keep her thoughts to herself. She eagerly chased after them and blocked their path. Cousin Ling, are you going to have a showdown with grandfather? Although that eldest daughter of the Li family cheated on you and made you a cuckold right after you registered your marriage, you still need to consider the bigger picture and can't just bring any woman home like this. The more she spoke, the more animated she became. That ugly monster Li Weiwei wants to debase herself. You can just divorce her, even if you. Ling Yuan, that's enough. He reprimanded her, not bothering to explain anything, and walked around her, continuing forward. Li Weiwei shook off Ling Jue's hand, pulling her knit cardigan tighter, trying to cover the suggestive marks as much as possible. She took to heart Ling Yuan's offensive words just now, thinking there would be plenty of opportunities to get even later. Grandfather. Li Guoping saw his granddaughter enter and grinned broadly, the scar on her face. Just as he thought. Now he was even more certain of victory. Beauty plus any skill was a royal flush. He refused to believe that impudent boy from the Ling family could truly remain unmoved. As for Ling Jingqing, he wasn't surprised at all. That night, when Ling Jue brought her back to Qinyuan, he had already seen that she was deliberately pretending to be ugly. Furthermore, during the 3 days of wedding preparations, they had met several times, and each time, the scar on her face had subtle changes. Children are playful, and there's no reason for adults to expose them. They saw the shyness on Li Weiwei's face and the hickeys on her neck, then looked at Ling Jue's nonchalant appearance beside her, and understood without needing words. It seemed this bet wouldn't take long to determine a winner. The two had an excellent understanding and kept silent about the events of the wedding day. Although the Ling and Li families publicly announced that the wedding would be rescheduled for a later date, Ling Jingqing still prepared a large red envelope for his granddaughter-in-law. Xiao Wei and Ah Ju, hurry up and work hard so grandfather can hold a great-grandson soon. Hearing this, Li Weiwei's earlobes turned even redder. She remembered they hadn't used protection those times last night, and when she went back, she'd have to buy 24-hour emergency contraception when they passed a pharmacy. As soon as Ling Yuan entered, she saw this harmonious and joyful scene. How was this different from what she had expected? She had hesitated outside for a long time just now, thinking a quarrel was inevitable. Xiao Yuan, come, meet your cousin-in-law. Ling Jingqing happily introduced her. Do you still remember Weiwei? When you were little, your maternal grandfather took you to Hong Kong to play, and you even snatched her toys. This was Li Weiwei? Hadn't she grown up disfigured abroad? Wait, what did she just say before entering? Never mind. At least it was an undeniable fact that she was secretly entangled with other men outside the family. She was unconvinced. So what if she was pretty? Could she be better than Sister Qingwan? Cousin Ling. She looked at Ling Jue with a pleading gaze, but he ignored her completely, actually peeling an orange for Li Weiwei. Go on, call her. I'll make up for the red envelope next time. He suddenly blurted out this sentence, then put an orange segment into Li Weiwei's mouth. You didn't even wash your hands before feeding me. Li Weiwei stared listlessly at the TV, subconsciously opening her small mouth to bite the orange segment. Only after swallowing it did she belatedly realize the issue. Ling Jue leaned closer to her, wrapping his arm around her waist, his grip tightening. He whispered in her ear, disgusted with me? Last night, I tasted things far less hygienic than this. Grandfather Li watched the young couple, as inseparable as glue, and teased, you two are so affectionate. The sofa is so big, yet you still have to sit so close. You really need to pick a good day to make up for the wedding soon. Ling Jingqing looked at his grandson's utterly smitten appearance and thought, this bet, the outcome, is already decided. Don't be too much. Li Weiwei pouted in a voice only they could hear. This man, how can he be so bad? Ling Jue dared not go too far, and with a facade of righteousness, let go of her. Ling Yuan, greet her, he said sternly. At this moment, he became serious again. Cousin-in-law, she could only stammer out the title. Good girl. Li Weiwei acknowledged her, and seeing Ling Yuan's extreme reluctance, her mood involuntarily brightened. The TV was still playing crosstalk and skits, and a peaceful atmosphere filled the living room. Ling Yuan felt a bit out of place there, so she found an excuse and left. She even forgot to ask for a signature from Zhang Tianxia. In a blink of an eye, it was 11 o'clock. Li Guoping asked his driver to take him home, while Li Weiwei couldn't resist grandfather Ling's kindness and agreed to stay at Qinyuan for the night. In Qinyuan Villa, Ling Jingqing lived on the first floor. The second-floor rooms belonged to his daughter and 2 grandsons, while Ling Jue had the entire third floor to himself. The staff all lived in the adjacent employee building. The third floor had been redecorated as early as half a month ago. Although Ling Jue had been living at Royal View Bay, his family had still prepared a marital suite for him. The maids had added many new daily necessities, and now everything was fully stocked. Even the wardrobe in the walk-in closet was supplied with women's nightgowns and slippers. Ling Jue was still in the bathroom washing up. Li Weiwei's heart was in a turmoil, wondering how the two of them would sleep tonight. She picked up her phone, opened WeChat, found Ella's profile picture, and tapped on it. Sis, is it too late for me to slip away now? A long time passed, but there was still no reply from the other end. She sent message after message. I'm a little scared. He's still in the shower. I really want to go back to Barcelona. I miss my grandma so much. Sobbing noises. I've become a married woman without ever even being in a relationship. She sent a flood of messages, one after another, but received no reply. Good heavens, judging by how things were in the car earlier, it seemed she was doomed tonight. She frowned miserably, wondering how she should react if Ling Jue tried to force himself on her. The bathroom door opened. The man had only a towel wrapped around his waist. His posture was tall and straight, his physique robust. He had broad, solid shoulders, and the lines of his chest and abdominal muscles were particularly taut and powerful. His damp, short hair added a touch of wildness and roguish charm. At 1.9 meters, he was tall and imposing, exuding an intimidating pressure. Weiwei didn't dare to meet his gaze. Her heart was beating erratically. She immediately dropped her phone, scrambled into the walk-in closet, grabbed a nightgown at random, and dove into the bathroom. Ding! A WeChat notification sounded. Ling Jue walked over to the sofa and glanced at the phone on the coffee table, which had just received a message. He had no habit of prying into others' privacy, but the content of the pop-up notification seemed to be about him. His long fingers tapped it open. He scrolled up and down, getting the gist of the conversation. The pink diamond-encrusted phone kept vibrating as Ella bombarded it with message after message. Ling Jue's expression grew more and more colorful. He went into Ella's profile settings. Add to blacklist? Without a moment's hesitation, he tapped yes. Then, he deleted the messages in the white chat box one by one, leaving only a single sentence. Mr. Ling is handsome and rich, and seeing how thoroughly moisturized you look today, he must be good in that department too. Why don't you two give it a try? Finally, he casually locked the screen and placed the phone back where it was. He dried his hair until it was half damp and checked the time. 1 a.m. The atmosphere in the room felt as heated as his own body, so he turned on the central air conditioning, setting the temperature to 20 degrees. Lying on one side of the bed, he stared towards the bathroom, his eyes unreadable. Then he sat up again and tucked the remote control under his pillow. He pulled up the covers and went to sleep. Weiwei lingered in the bathroom for nearly an hour, wavering. When she finally picked up the nightgown to put it on, she realized that in her haste, she had grabbed a piece that was as thin as a cicada's wing, with a completely open back. She closed her eyes, resigned to her fate. The bathroom door opened. Luckily, the walk-in closet was directly opposite. She tiptoed over like a cat and slipped inside. Click! She locked the door. She rummaged through drawers and cabinets, but found that all the nightgowns were of the provocative, adult variety. Helpless, she had no choice but to throw on one of the man's white shirts over it. When she came out, she immediately noticed the room had been made very cold. She shivered, goosebumps rising on her skin. Weiwei searched the entire room for the remote control, but found nothing. She was exhausted anyway, so she decided to just get into bed and sleep. When she came out, she had noticed that the man on the bed was already fast asleep. The man who was supposed to be sound asleep suddenly opened his eyes. With a long arm, he reached out and wrapped it around her soft, delicate body. The sensation was exquisite, smooth, delicate, fragrant, and soft. His hand roamed restlessly, slipping inside her shirt. He gently caressed her back, discovering she was still wearing a silk nightgown underneath. Its back was almost entirely bare, the faint outline of her curves tantalizing. Her skin was like lustrous jade, so tender it seemed water could be pinched from it. His breathing grew ragged, his atoms apple-bobbed, and a fervent, possessive obsession ignited in his eyes. Weiwei instinctively wrapped her arms around his lean, strong waist. Her crimson lips were inches away, her breath as fragrant as an orchid. Ling Jue's hands traced a slow path down her graceful waistline, pulling her tightly into his embrace until their skin touched. The desire in his body was screaming. He wanted to take a cold shower, yet he couldn't bear to let go of the soft, fragrant jade in his arms. A thin layer of sweat broke out on Ling Jue's face. He was enduring, restraining himself to the absolute limit. He remembered he had hurt her the night before. The tube of ointment was lying quietly on the bedside table. He picked it up, squeezed some of the milky white cream into his palm, and applied it to her wound, massaging it in gently. Weiwei's red lips parted slightly, and she pressed her legs together in discomfort. It was an utterly agonizing night. The next day, when Li Weiwei woke up, Ling Jue had already left for the company. She'd had a dream last night. In the dream, a lark was circling in the sky when it was shot down by a hunter. It faltered, then plummeted, falling into a desert and burying its head directly in the yellow earth. On the Gobi Desert, a wild fox appeared. It bit the lark's leg, pulled it free, and then carried the injured bird back to its den. The fox licked her wounds and even wrapped them in thick gauze, caring for her meticulously. The fox carefully gave her water to drink, but where could one find water in a desert? Soon, the lark's gunshot wound healed. She spread her light wings and flew against the wind towards the blue sky and white clouds. But a steel cage fell from the sky, trapping her inside. The fox appeared, its tail held high in arrogance. It extended its claws, baring its fangs. The meat is much tastier after the wounds have healed. That pair of narrow fox eyes slowly superimposed onto the eyes of a man. Ling Jue. He had taken off his mask, revealing himself as Ling Jue, and the lark had transformed into her. He slowly opened the cage, a dangerous aura radiating from him. Without a word, he ravaged and plundered her, the air around them growing thin. There was a red mole on his chest, and in the dream, as if bewitched by something, she actually leaned in and kissed it. A scene of intimate, lingering passion unfolded. For a moment, Li Weiwei couldn't distinguish between dream and reality. The other side of the bed still held the residual warmth of the man's body. She blushed furiously, her heart pounding like a drum. Knock, knock. A maid knocked on the door, bringing in a steaming tureen of pigeon soup. Thinking of the lark from her dream, Li Weiwei lost her appetite completely. After a quick wash-up, she slipped on her slippers and went to the study on the third floor. It was neat, orderly, and filled with a dazzling array of books. She opened a laptop, navigated to the Chuangwen website, and entered a string of usernames and passwords. VIP Lounge. Brother one, you wouldn't have turned against me too, hating me because your unrequited love for my brother turned into hate, would you? Suite 2802 on the wedding day had been prepared for him. Wenji helped her create a diversion, disappearing after escorting her out of the global international hotel. Li Weiwei wholeheartedly supported her brother and his epic, unaccepted romance. They weren't freaks, they just happened to fall in love with someone of the same gender. Alas, today was another day of being moved to tears for a pair of unfulfilled BL lovers. She truly shipped this couple, a case of fiction coming true, the ultimate Danmei novel. Wenji knew her little mind was once again concocting a passionate, poignant, forbidden romance. He crooked his middle finger and flicked her on the head. That hurts. Li Weiwei rubbed her forehead. Her first instinct was to give him an over-the-shoulder throw, but remembering she was still wearing an evening gown, she had to give up. Wenji stood still, shaking his head helplessly. Had she misunderstood something? Could matchmaking be so randomly imagined? Every time he tried to clarify, she thought he was just making excuses, cowardly afraid to face his true feelings. Wenji placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice full of seriousness. Weiwei, actually, the person I've always liked is. Bang. The lounge door was pushed open. Secretary Zhang saw the door was only ajar, so he pushed it right open. The sound of the doorstop hitting the wall caught the attention of the two people inside. Ling Jue. Why was he here? Li Weiwei, come here. The scene fell into a dead silence. Ling Jue's face was gloomy, taut and drawn as if plastered. Then it sank even further. He couldn't stand other men having physical contact with her. Li Weiwei didn't go forward. Instead, she took a step back, sullenly hiding behind Wenji. Asterisk, you tell me to come, and I just come? Don't I have any dignity? Always that deadpan expression, as if I owe him hundreds of billions. Can't he be a bit more pleasant? Asterisk. I'll say it one last time, Li Weiwei, come here. Ling Jue's tone sent shivers down one's spine. His possessions were not to be touched by others. Seeing the stiff atmosphere, Zhang Qian quickly stepped forward to ease it. Mr. Wen, our CEO Ling might have something to say to Mrs. Ling privately. How about we outsiders excuse ourselves for now? The exhibition outside is about to start. I can escort you to your seat first? He said with a deferential smile, his words smooth and tactful. Asterisk privately, Mrs. Ling outsiders. Asterisk. Wen Ji felt a bit deflated. Indeed, they were husband and wife now. He was an outsider. He nodded, maintaining his gentlemanly demeanor, and started walking towards the door. But as he passed Ling Jue, he stopped, scrutinizing him with an inquiring gaze, then fixed his eyes on Ling Jue's chest with a subtly unclear look. Asterisk Master's chest has a red mole. He blushes when it's touched. Had they already progressed to that stage? Asterisk Wen Ji gave a bitter smile, then left with Secretary Zhang. Li Weiwei saw this whole scene clearly from beginning to end. Asterisk was he falling for someone else? Was he lusting after her plastic husband's body? Asterisk. Ling Jue watched her staring blankly at Zhang Qian and Wen Ji's receding figures. Asterisk they're already gone, and you're still looking? So reluctant to see them go? Asterisk his heart felt as if it was stuffed with cotton, stifling. What happened to your forehead? He had noticed it as soon as he entered, a small red patch on Li Weiwei's forehead. Her skin was delicate. Even minor unnoticed bumps would swell and turn red. Brother Wen hid it, she replied subconsciously, rubbing her forehead again. Hearing this, Ling Jue's face darkened further. That man actually flicked her forehead, and she still called him Brother Wen so intimately? This was unbearable. Ling Jue strode forward, pulled Li Weiwei directly into his arms, then restrained her wildly struggling hands, pinning them behind her back, and fiercely kissed the red patch on her forehead. Get away, pervert. Her soft, coquettish voice made his lower abdomen tighten, and he immediately reached to pull at her diamond strap. In her desperation, Li Weiwei didn't care about the inconvenience of her gown. Summoning unknown brute strength, she bent down and rammed her head into his stomach. Ling Jue hadn't expected her to pull such a stunt and was directly shoved back to the wall. Li Weiwei, quick as a flash, went straight for a chokehold, winning in one move. Taekwondo blue belt, 7th Q. Did you think I was just playing around? When Ling Jue came to his senses, her eyes were crescent-shaped, smiling foolishly. Ling Jue had originally wanted to teach her a lesson, thinking she really didn't know her place. But seeing her triumphant expression, he gave up. She seemed to have never smiled so brightly at him before. Whenever they were alone, she was always stubborn. Li Weiwei had also had enough fun. She mused to herself, if this man ever bullied her again, this was how she'd deal with him. She released him. The tingling sensation on her forehead was vaguely painful. Asterisk you dog, kissing so hard. I don't even need to look. It must be even redder. Asterisk. She then remembered something else. She still hadn't settled the score with this jerk for blacklisting Ella behind her back last night. Today, she had gone to Ella's duplex apartment, but was locked out and not allowed in. She later found out Ella was upset about being blacklisted on WeChat. After explaining everything, it was fine. Ella was responsible for her makeup and styling today and even picked the dark green, high-slit gown she was wearing. Asterisk damn it, the ambiguous marks on my body were finally covered with foundation, and now there's another one on my forehead. Asterisk. What are you thinking about? Ling Jue disliked the gown she was wearing. Its green color made him feel awful just looking at it. Li Weiwei remembered Wen Ji staring at his chest just now, and she spoke without hesitation. I was thinking, if Brother Wen is with our family's boss, he's the Yuk. If he's with you, he'd still be the Yuk, and you'd definitely be the Same. Same your sister. Ling Jue gritted his teeth. How could she think of such unhealthy things? This man, how can he even swear? Next time, when your injury is healed, I'll take you to a horse ranch in the suburbs. Find a place where no one is, and I'll teach you to ride a horse. When Li Weiwei heard the words, ride a horse, it was as if her nerve endings had been stung by a bee. First, she was terrified, her mind buzzing, then numb, and the pain from her memory swept over her. Asterisk ride a horse? Polly on horseback? I'm going crazy. How filthy I am. My thoughts aren't clean anymore. Asterisk. Why are you blushing? Did you think of something? Ling Jue saw her cheeks were as red as a tomato and felt like teasing her. He leaned down, close to her ear, his warm breath fanning her swan-like neck. Little thing, your response last night was really passionate. Li Weiwei froze completely, his words echoing in her mind. Asterisk last night. Response. Passionate. She thought she had dreamt a dream, a spring dream leaving no trace. Could it be that all of it was real? She actively kissed that red mole. TSK. Unbelievable. In just a few days, she's also learned to be a pervert. Asterisk. Ling Jue took Li Weiwei's hand, but she shook him off. I'll have Assistant Meng send up another set of clothes. Change before you go down, otherwise. I don't mind personally helping you change at the exhibition. After giving this instruction, he left, closing the door behind him. Mrs. Ling, CEO Ling instructed me to bring these clothes for you in the dressing case. He said you must put them on. Assistant Meng changed his address to Li Weiwei. Also, the gala is about to begin. Your mother, Ms. He has already arrived at the exhibition. She originally wanted to come up to find you, but was caught up by other ladies downstairs and can't get away for now. Li Weiwei looked weary. She reached out and opened the heavy, luxurious dressing case. Inside was a pale pink qipao. She slowly lifted it. It was a double-collared qipao, modified with suzhou embroidery, its hemline irregularly cut, with a modest slit. Simple, yet not overly grand. It exuded elegance and a gentle demeanor. A chest full of suzhou embroidery is worth more than 10,000 taels of gold. Li Weiwei casually tossed the qipao onto the floor, completely uninterested. It wasn't her style at all. Her little temper was etched all over her face. An Assistant Meng clearly noticed. CEO Ling said that if you refuse to change into this outfit, once you go downstairs, he'll have his own way of helping you change. Assistant Meng repeated the words to her verbatim. Li Weiwei couldn't help but recall what the man had said before leaving, that he wouldn't mind helping her himself at the exhibition. Bastard. He just loves to scare her. It wasn't that Li Weiwei was truly afraid he'd act inappropriately. She just felt it was better to avoid trouble. It was just changing clothes. No need to offend him over such a small matter. What if she displeased him and he used it as an excuse to bully her again? Her body couldn't take it. You go out first. I'll change. All right, you go ahead and change. I'll wait outside the door. First floor exhibition hall. As soon as Ling Yuan entered, she haughtily sought out the head organizer of the gala, wanting them to add another seat in the VIP section. The first row of the VIP seating only had 5 main seats. The center seat position was naturally reserved for the Li family's little princess, Mrs. Ling, the CEO's wife. Ling Jue's seat was to the left of the seat position, and Ling Yuan was on the same side. At this moment, Ling Yuan was throwing her weight around, arguing with the Bulgari gala organizer. Rules are dead. It's just adding a chair. Do I have to make my cousin come out personally before you'll do it? She argued until her face was red and her neck was thick. Hearing that Li Weiwei had also arrived and was occupying the main seat, she was furious. Yuan, let's just forget it. Don't make things difficult for them. It's all the same to me where I sit. The woman's voice was soft and gentle, as if tinged with a hint of grievance. Qingwanjie, you don't need to persuade me. I'm going to tell my cousin right now that these arrogant people won't give him face, and I'll make him withdraw his investment from Bulgari. The gala organizer panicked upon hearing this. He couldn't afford to bear that responsibility. Miss Ling, is this really CEO Ling's instruction? They still wanted to confirm, as the guests attending this gala were all extremely wealthy and influential, and they worried about others having objections. Miss Lu Qingwan, standing before them, was rumored to be CEO Ling's childhood sweetheart. CEO Ling often stayed overnight at her home, and a single man and woman sharing a room naturally sparked speculation. Otherwise what? Is there anyone in the circle who doesn't know about my cousin's relationship with Qingwanjie? Ling Yuan deliberately raised her voice to cover her nervousness, which also drew the attention of the group of socialites nearby. Who cares? Anyway, her cousin had gone for a smoke, and she wasn't just making things up. Her cousin's wife should have been Qingwanjie in the first place. All right, if it's CEO Ling's instruction, then we will certainly proceed according to his wishes. Not far from them, among a circle of socialites, was He Qianyun, who was surrounded and couldn't get away. To curry favor with the mistress of Jingchuang, they all condemned Miss Ling for her lack of social graces, and also took the opportunity to ridicule Lu Qingwan. Mrs. Li, how can that down-and-out girl who only knows how to perform music compare to your beloved daughter? Exactly. Look at the sapphire set on her. It's incredibly expensive. She couldn't earn enough to buy it even if she played music until her hands were crippled. Every day she acts pitiful and weak in front of CEO Ling, and she's good at pleasing Miss Ling, and they just fall for her act. The wealthy ladies shared a common enemy. They ostracized Lu Qingwan, not wanting such a person to integrate into their high society, and absolutely refusing to accept a maid's daughter sitting in the VIP seats they coveted. So they vigorously fanned the flames in He Qianyun's ear, hoping to use her to teach Lu Qingwan a lesson and make her understand her place. Sisters, there's no need to feel indignant for my Weiwei. It's just one seat. Seeing that she wasn't taking the bait, the wealthy ladies changed the subject. By the way, where's Miss Li? Wasn't this gala meant to welcome her? Right? It was a pity we didn't see her at the last wedding. They also wanted to see the rumored ugly little princess of the Li family, to see how hideous she was that the Hua Ling CEO was scared enough to call off the engagement. However, they didn't have the guts to gossip in front of He Qianyun. They couldn't afford to offend her. He Qianyun ignored them and instead scrutinized Lu Qingwan. She couldn't help but shake her head. If Ling Jue truly liked this violinist in front of her, then her son-in-law's taste was really quite poor. Dressed in a white gauze silk qipao, she was excessively thin and couldn't fill out the dress at all. It looked as if she'd be blown away by a gust of wind. She was pitifully delicate like a small white flower, and while she had some beauty, the sapphire necklace around her neck was too extravagant and ornate, making her look out of place. This was far inferior to their niao. All right, the exhibition is about to begin. Everyone, please take your seats. Surrounded by the wealthy ladies, she arrived at the VIP section, only to see that Ling Yuan had not only secured a seat for Lu Qingwan, but had also swapped places with her. This was really pushing her luck. He Qianyun was seated to the right of the C position, and on the same side was Wenji. She knew this handsome young man. If she hadn't heard that he had homosexual tendencies, she would have thought he liked her daughter. She whispered a few words into Wenji's ear, and then, with a mutual understanding, they swapped seats. Ling Jue, having finished his smoke, was also escorted to the VIP section. Seeing the person he least wanted to see, his eyes chilled slightly. He bent his tall frame, sat down, and glanced at the expensive wristwatch on his hand. It was almost time. A Jew, my mother said she hasn't seen you in a long time. The woman next to him spoke very softly, very lightly. He gazed straight ahead at the exhibition stage, dignified, indifferent, and sparing with his words. A spotlight shone on the stage. Assistant Meng was in charge of hosting the evening. As autumn brings a refreshing coolness and the fragrance of osmanthus fills the air, we thank all our distinguished guests for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend this Bulgari new product launch. As the host delivered his grand speech, Ling Jue, in the audience, rubbed his brow, impatience showing on his handsome face. Assistant Meng was good at reading expressions and quickly concluded his speech. Now, we invite the president's wife of Hua Ling Financial Group, the eldest daughter of Jingchuan Capital, to cut the ribbon for our launch event. After he finished speaking, the stage lights shone upon a traditional white wooden platform resembling a ladder. A slender figure of a girl appeared, radiant with every glance, possessing a heavenly beauty. She was dressed in a delicate pink double-collared qipao, descending the stairs step by step. She approached gracefully, every step like a lotus blossom. Who was she? Sang. Her delicate figure was enveloped in a perfectly fitted, pale pink qipao. Its sleek tailoring outlined her slender figure, while her long black hair, casually swept behind her ears, fell gracefully to her waist. She was as pretty as a peach blossom in spring, and as pure as a chrysanthemum in autumn. Wearing an elegantly understated suzhou embroidered qipao, unadorned by any jewelry, she was a unique beauty in Ning City, truly worthy of being called a beauty that could topple kingdoms and cities. Li Weiwei's crystal high heels clicked against the steps, a sound that resonated through the utterly silent hall, as if everyone feared disturbing this vibrant and captivating little princess. Each step, it was unknown whose heart it stirred deeply. Ling Jue's eyes deepened slightly. Unnoticed by anyone, his fists were clenched tightly, and veins bulged on his arms. He regretted it. Her charm, her beauty, should be for him alone to savor. No one else should be allowed even a glimpse. He glanced at Wenji out of the corner of his eye. It would have been better not to look. One glance filled him with irritation, as if his treasured possession, carefully kept for years, was now coveted by another. That man's eyes seemed to be glued to his wife. Li Weiwei finally reached the center of the exhibition stand. She picked up the large, bow-tied scissors and cut the ribbon. The host led the applause. Immediately, thunderous applause erupted from the audience. What a beautiful scene of a beauty cutting the ribbon. The ladies and socialites from the upper echelons, recovering from their initial shock, began to whisper among themselves, a cacophony of murmurs filling the air. Most of the male guests present envied the CEO of Hua Ling, who had formed a powerful alliance with Jingchuan Capital, taking his flourishing career to new heights, and most importantly, winning the hand of such a beauty. Ling Yuan, who had seen Li Weiwei's exquisite beauty before, was boredly playing with her phone, completely pretending not to notice. Beside her, Lu Qingwan forced a smile that looked uglier than crying. It wasn't that she hadn't heard of Li Weiwei. Ling Yuan had initially mocked her, saying that the eldest daughter of the Li family had a large scar on her face, but later said that she had met her formally and she looked, all right, passable. At the time, she had secretly rejoiced, thinking that the marriage between the Ling and Li families wouldn't last long. On the stage, Li Weiwei exuded grace, every gesture and movement revealing her delicate nobility. Lu Qingwan pursed her lips and turned her head to look at Ling Jue. His profile was incredibly handsome, with sharp, distinct features. In his normally indifferent eyes, a burning light suddenly reflected, fixated on the woman in the center of the exhibition stand. "Ah, Jue," she began. "My mom said she made your favorite dumplings tonight. If you don't mind, why don't you come to my place for a late supper before heading back?" She tried hard to squeeze into his world, disliking his neglect, even though she had never received any response from him in this relationship. Ling Jue ignored her, his mind consumed with regret over why he hadn't just carried Li Weiwei home from the lounge earlier. Lu Qingwan lowered her head dejectedly, mad with jealousy but utterly helpless. After the ribbon cutting, Li Weiwei, led by the staff, walked towards the VIP section. The Qipow's contours clung to her figure as Li Weiwei bent to sit, her striking waist-to-hip ratio also falling into Ling Jue's gaze. No one knew her measurements better than he did. In this, he had won. Sitting in her seat, Li Weiwei could feel the intense gazes from both sides fixed on her. She secretly sighed inwardly and turned to her right. "Brother Wen," she said, "if you keep staring at me like that, my brother will think I'm trying to steal his girlfriend." Wen Ji only then realized the brazenness in his gaze. He smiled. "Go ahead, your brother wouldn't believe it even if you told him." This playful remark eased the ambiguous tension between them. While the two of them chatted and laughed on one side, Ling Jue's resentment on the other side was even heavier and darker than visiting a grave. Did she think he, her husband, was dead? Li Weiwei was doing it on purpose. She had heard about Lu Qingwan, and coupled with Ling Yuan nearby, she guessed that woman was her nominal husband's first love. Sitting next to him for all to see, she was practically glued to him. What was this? Was she trying to publicly humiliate her? Was Ling Jue trying to tell everyone in such a formal setting that she, his legitimate wife, held far less weight in his heart than some mistress outside? There was no need for that. She didn't like him anyway, and even if she did, a princess wouldn't deign to compromise. The exhibition hall was air-conditioned, and Li Weiwei's slight cold hadn't fully recovered, making her shiver a bit from the cold. It was all Ling Jue's fault. Last night, the central air conditioning in the bedroom was set to 20 degrees Celsius, most likely to freeze her to death so he could bring a new bride home. Achoo! She quickly covered her mouth with both hands and sniffled. The Qipow's hem reached her ankles, revealing a small section of fair skin, and she felt the chill creep up from her feet. The two men beside her understood implicitly. As when Ji took off his black trench coat, Ling Jue was still unbuttoning his dark blue suit jacket. "Cousin," Ling Yuan interjected abruptly. "You're so thoughtful, knowing Sister Qingwan is sensitive to the cold." Ling Yuan's voice was not loud, but every word fell into the ears of those around. Li Weiwei felt they had gone too far. Showing off their affection, right? Who couldn't do that? "Sorry, big brother, but this is on you." She directly took Wen Ji's trench coat and draped it over herself. "Thank you, Brother Wen, you're so kind." Her voice was sweet, like a continuous spring rain, charming one's senses. By the time Ling Jue had unbuttoned and removed his suit jacket, Li Weiwei was already thanking another man. He stood there, holding the jacket blankly, silent, his thin lips tightly pursed. Ling Yuan stood up, crossed over a seat, took the clothes directly from his hand, and draped them over Lu Qingwan. "Cousin is just shy. Let me help you." After doing this, she returned to her seat, humming a little tune to herself, feeling smug. Lu Qingwan pulled Ling Jue's suit jacket tighter around her. His scent enveloped her, making her feel warm inside. Her face flushed with shyness, and suddenly she felt confident. Although the other guests behind them couldn't see their expressions, they could guess what was happening and couldn't help but sigh in wonder. He Qianyun, however, remained calm. It seemed changing seats was indeed the right move. Film stars, one after another, walked to the exhibition stand wearing Bulgari's new jewelry pieces, available for guests in their seats to select. Most of the attendees at this exhibition had come for the grand finale, a sapphire necklace. The cornflower blue was truly the king of exquisite sapphires. It was said that this sapphire had been specially purchased by Bulgari's CEO at a high price from the German royal family, and from design to craftsmanship, it was handled by Bulgari's most renowned genius designer. This sapphire necklace was named Heart of the Kingdom. For this, the Bulgari group spared no expense, hiring the hottest international top supermodel to showcase it. This supermodel, at 18, had risen to fame in an international show, and now her appearance fee reached hundreds of thousands of dollars per step. This showed the immense value of the Heart of the Kingdom sapphire. Xijian walked in 12-centimeter stiletto heels, her aura fully unleashed, striding with a "I'm the most beautiful" swagger, wild, untamed, and full of aggression. In full view of everyone, she blew a kiss towards Li Weiwei in the VIP section. Li Weiwei, without hesitation, threw back a flirtatious wink. The cornflower blue sapphire, the Xijian, on the model's chest was brilliantly clear and vibrant, yet also imbued with a hazy, pale violet hue. Its unique, velvet-like texture and appearance, combined with exquisite cutting techniques, made the finished piece a true masterpiece of craftsmanship. Even Li Weiwei, who usually paid little attention to diamonds and jewelry, found her gaze drawn to it. After walking the runway, the supermodel did not retreat backstage like other celebrities, but stood with the host at the center of the exhibition platform. The biggest difference between this new product launch and previous ones was that the grand finale sapphire would be auctioned on the spot, with the highest bidder taking it home. All right, we've reached the most thrilling moment of this exhibition. I announce that the bidding for Heart of the Kingdom officially begins. The starting price is 200 million. A murmur of surprise rippled through the crowd. Everyone knew this sapphire was priceless, but a starting price of 200 million? No matter how wealthy a family was, they couldn't afford such extravagance. This opening bid instantly deterred 90% of the attendees. 220 million. Madame Yuan, whose family ran a jewelry resale business, raised her paddle, making the first bid. 250 million. Wenji, unwilling to be outdone, also raised his paddle. He was determined to acquire this sapphire necklace at all costs to give to his little princess. Li Weiwei thought he was insane. She hadn't heard he had a girlfriend. Who would he give it to? Her brother? Would her brother even look good wearing that? 300 million. Ling Jue, calm and collected, also joined the bidding. Li Weiwei finally turned her head to properly look at her nominal husband. Her gaze landed on Lu Qingwan, who also had a sapphire around her neck. Was he buying it to win the favor of his white moonlight? Humph. She turned her head away, a surge of resentment welling up inside her, refusing to look at him again. That jerk, clearly trying to bully her. Unable to bear it, she also raised her paddle. 400 million. Her voice was clear and melodious, enchanting to hear. Li Weiwei herself couldn't possibly afford such a sum, but it didn't matter. Her mother was right beside her. She could make her pay. If that didn't work, she'd call her brother to foot the bill. She was the pampered little princess of Jingchuan capital, full of confidence and pride. If Ling Jue bought this Heart of the Kingdom for his mistress, the Li family would be utterly disgraced. 500 million. Ling Jue raised the price again, determined to get it. Including Madame Yuan, who made the first bid, the socialites and ladies were stunned into silence. The price of this sapphire had far exceeded their budgets. Li Weiwei frowned, cursing Ling Jue up and down in her mind. Asterisk, this young lady won't play with you anymore. There's no need to angrily splurge for 100 million just to spite you. Asterisk, she liked this sapphire, but not to the extent of absolutely having to own it. She slowly lowered her paddle, thinking the auction was coming to an end. 550 million. When Ji was also going all out, relentlessly pursuing. Are you crazy, brother one? Why bid for that? 500 million already far exceeds the gem's intrinsic value. Let's not be a fool, all right. Li Weiwei actively reached out and pulled Wen Ji's arm, trying to dissuade him. No. Brother one wants to buy it for someone I've liked for a long time. As long as it's something she likes, no amount of money is a waste. This scene was witnessed by Ling Jue. He wished he could stare a hole through Li Weiwei's hand. He firmly raised his paddle again, his voice deep and magnetic. 700 million. The familiar male voice pierced Li Weiwei's ears. She turned her head again to glare at Ling Jue. Suddenly, she found it so ironic. This man was her nominal husband. Although they had no feelings for each other, they had just shared the most intimate relationship. The delicate, white moonlight beside him and his cousin who loved to stir up trouble were both looking smug. It was truly annoying. 750 million. When Ji had no shortage of money and was prepared to see it through to the end. 900 million. The guests in the venue eagerly watched the show. Bulgari's new product launch was indeed spectacular. An intense tug-of-war between top affluent families, a melodramatic TV drama brought to life on the screen. They also noticed that after Miss Li and Mr. Wen went to the restroom, they changed clothes, guessing something must have happened between them in private that necessitated a change of attire. And CEO Ling gave no face to his new wife. He was immensely powerful and arrogant, not even avoiding suspicion with his mother-in-law sitting nearby. Not only did he arrange his lover to sit beside him, but he also casually tossed out 900 million without batting an eyelid to buy the sapphire for her. God was truly fair. Miss Li had family background and looks, while that terrible violin player Lu Qingwan was far inferior to her in both aspects. Yet she received CEO Ling's favor and affection. I'll offer 1 billion to buy it for our new Anyuan, as an early birthday present. This time, it was He Qianyun who raised the paddle. Jingchuan capital and Hualing's financial power were comparable. What's 1 billion? As long as her precious daughter liked it. What's wrong with spending a little money? After that, the two men who had been fiercely bidding against each other stopped. 1 billion, first call. 1 billion, second call. 1 billion, third call. Sold. The host brought the hammer down, his voice echoing through the entire exhibition hall via the microphone, deafening. Congratulations to Miss He from Jingchuan capital for successfully bidding on the heart of the kingdom, and belatedly wishing Miss Li Weiwei, the Li family's precious daughter, a happy birthday. Li Weiwei couldn't be happy no matter what. Her mother had needlessly spent so much extra money. Everyone came forward to congratulate He Qianyun on buying the sapphire, a chorus of fawning and flattering voices unending. Ling Yuan's words were clearly intended for Li Weiwei to hear. So what if heart of the kingdom belonged to Li Weiwei? What mattered was that her cousin's heart was with Sister Qingwan. Ling Jue watched Li Weiwei abruptly stand up. She nodded to Wen Ji, returned his black trench coat, and then left her seat, without sparing him a single glance from beginning to end. Her back seemed to carry a hint of loneliness. Ling Jue then also got up and went to He Qianyun. Mom, I have a surefire deal I want to make with you. Li Weiwei went alone to the rooftop. The wind was strong, as if her heart had been ripped open, and cold wind poured in, chilling her to the core. She had never been so frustrated in her life. This was the first time. Ling Jue saw this scene when he came up. Her slender frame trembled slightly, her long hair fluttering in the wind, drawing beautiful arcs in the air. He stepped forward, opened his suit jacket, and drew her slender body into his embrace. A familiar scent enveloped Li Weiwei. She looked up slightly. It really was him. Ling Jue rested his chin on the top of her head, wrapping his arm around her waist. This jacket he was wearing, wasn't it the one he had just given to Lu Qingwan? How disgusting. She had hidden far away, yet he still had to come and disgust her, right? Li Weiwei turned away, not looking at him, but stared at the jacket with disgust. Ling Jue understood, and voluntarily explained. Zhang Qian just sent it. It's new. Then he took out the heart of the kingdom from his pocket, wanting to put it around her neck. But Li Weiwei took a step back, looking at him coldly. If CEO Ling wants to offer a gift from another's bounty, there's no need. It would be more practical to simply add some money yourself, buy it directly from my mother, and then give it to your mistress. I don't have a mistress. A trace of seriousness appeared in Ling Jue's eyes. A cigarette dangled from his mouth. He took out a lighter with his left hand, shielded it from the wind with his right, and leisurely began to light up. The lighter spat out a faint blue flame. After lighting it, he took a deep drag, then tossed it on the ground and crushed it under his leather shoe. The wind on the rooftop was strong. The smoke he'd just exhaled scattered with the wind, unexpectedly choking the person opposite him. Cough, cough. Li Weiwei had no desire to be with him. She turned to leave. Ling Jue's throat felt a little dry. She had been provoking him all night. How could he let her go so easily? He quickly caught up and scooped her up into his arms. Let me go. The man's hands held her tightly. All struggles were futile. The thought of her laughing playfully and acting coy with other men, yet being cold and resistant towards him, made his heart numb and swollen, an unbearable blockage. In the elevator, Li Weiwei saw his eyes turn bloodshot and his breathing quicken. She knew all too well what that meant. CEO Ling, shouldn't you hurry and find your delicate darling? She's got dumplings cooked and waiting for you at home. If you waste any more time here with me, the dumpling wrappers will turn mushy. She would rather climb down 26 floors barefoot than share an elevator with him. Ling Jue propped his hands against the mirrored wall of the elevator, trapping Li Weiwei in his embrace. He lowered his head, looking at her, his eyes obscure. I don't like dumplings. I want meat. His Adam's apple bobbed up and down, his voice hoarse and frightening. Meat dumplings, vegetable dumplings, eat whatever you like. It has nothing to do with me. It does. You are a tender piece of meat, and I want to savor you properly. As he finished speaking, he directly reached to unfasten the front buttons of her cheongsam. 1, 2. Li Weiwei realized he was going to commit an outrage here. Frightened and desperate, she gathered all her strength to push him away. If CEO Ling has the elegance to perform an 18-plus show here, I certainly don't have the courage for it. Ling Jue's narrow eyes slanted sideways. He glanced at the 2 surveillance cameras at the top of the elevator, then pulled out his phone from his pocket and made a call to Secretary Zhang. The elevator. Handle it. He hung up the phone. 2 minutes later, the red light on the monitor went out, and the elevator buttons dimmed. Li Weiwei trembled. She had claustrophobia and couldn't pry open the elevator door. She could only wildly slap at it, but received no response from the outside. Save your strength. Ling Jue leaned in again, losing patience with unbuttoning her clothes. With a rip, the Suzhou embroidery cheongsam on Li Weiwei's body was torn open by him from the slit in the skirt. You don't know how to cherish a woman at all. Does your delicate darling know that? She mocked. Ling Jue boldly replied, she knows, then continued to be hands-on. The fabric was torn to shreds, scattered messily on the ground. Do you know what I was thinking when you stood on that stage wearing this cheongsam? Li Weiwei desperately shielded the alluring side of her chest. Tears were already streaming from the corners of her eyes. The vast disparity in physical strength between a man and a woman left her utterly powerless to resist. Ling Jue gently wiped away her tear tracks with his fingertip, then leaned down and whispered into her ear. At that moment, I was thinking about what position I should use to take you. Li Weiwei's pupils constricted in horror. She stared at him in disbelief. How could he be so depraved and vulgar? His white moonlight was sitting beside him, yet his dirty thoughts were directed at her on the exhibition stand. Ling Jue took off his impeccably ironed suit jacket, which had not a single crease, threw it on the ground, and then picked her up and placed her on it. Ling Jue, don't make me hate you. Suit yourself. He unbuckled his metal belt, letting out a sneer, like an Azura from hell. Hate is better than being invisible. He warned himself that her injuries hadn't healed yet, so he couldn't go too far. A taste would be enough. But when she lay naked beneath him, he felt it was nowhere near enough. How could merely tasting be as stimulating as drinking poison to quench thirst? A year ago, when he first met her in London, England, he developed a desire to plunder and possess her. She had bright eyes and white teeth, as delicate as a doll. When she came out of Li Songyang's hotel suite, he had thought she was his sworn enemies. After returning to China, he couldn't suppress this obsession. He sent people to investigate, and only then learned that they were siblings, and that the Ling and Li families were old acquaintances, even having joked about an engagement between them when he was a child. He was relieved she wasn't Li Songyang's bed partner, yet he resented that she was Li Songyang's sister. For this entire year, he had tossed and turned sleeplessly through countless lonely nights, thinking of her smiling face like a flower, imagining her lying on his bed. As he kept thinking, his body actually grew a strong reaction. Then he couldn't restrain himself any longer. He employed some means and finally had her name inscribed in his spouse column. Thinking of all this, Ling Jue couldn't bear it anymore. How could he force her against her will? The 100 times tempered steel turned into soft silk around a finger. Be good, call me husband, and we'll go home. He coaxed her in a low voice, a voice so gentle it could drip water. Li Weiwei found the man in front of her to be mercurial. Just now, he had brutally torn her clothes, and now he was speaking kindly, coaxing her to call him husband. This miss either offended someone today, or it's a day of Mercury retrograde. First, I was almost molested by a scoundrel at the banquet, and now I'm humiliated like this by CO Ling in an elevator. She stubbornly turned her head away. The elevator was sealed, and that oppressive feeling returned. Ling Jue heard the thorns in her words and also caught the words molested by a scoundrel. Tell me what happened. Heh. Luckily CEO Ling isn't like that pervert with an S. M fetish, otherwise I'd die an even worse death. Anyway, whether a dog bites you once or 100 times, it's still a bite. After saying this, Li Weiwei tightly closed her eyes, bit her lip, and her delicate body trembled slightly. You're not going to tell me, are you? Ling Jue was angry at how arrogant and stubborn she was towards him. Between husband and wife, this is intimacy. How can it be called humiliation? Darling, I'm just loving you properly. After saying this, he lowered his head. Sang sang, Weibo. An hour later, the elevator returned to normal. The Cheongsam was unwearable. A tender body, flushed with a rosy glow, was wrapped in the damp suit jacket. Ling Jue carried Li Weiwei to the back door of the exhibition hall. Secretary Zhang had already prepared the car and had been waiting for a long time. CEO Ling, are we returning to Royal View Bay? Secretary Zhang helped them open the rear car door. There was no driver, so he had to do it himself. Ling Jue still maintained his usual arrogant and stern demeanor, but his lips were a vibrant red, unlike their usual faint color. Li Weiwei had already fainted when she was carried out of the elevator. Check what happened at the banquet before we arrived. Yes, CEO Ling. Liked, the day I returned home, the tycoon heir pulled me to get our marriage certificate. Please add it to your favorites. Shahage. Net, the day I returned home, the tycoon heir pulled me to get married. On Shuhage Novel Network updates fastest across the entire network. The boat tail slowly drove away from the exhibition center, merging into the endless flow of traffic, and disappeared into the night. What a coincidence. 2 heartbroken people were standing by the back door. When Ji happened to witness it, he watched, wide-eyed, as Li Weiwei was embraced by another man and walked past him. That man, exuding confidence, even deliberately slowed his pace as he passed him. His little princess was already fast asleep, tightly wrapped in a large, wrinkled men's coat. From the looks of it, one could guess what she had just gone through. And the sapphire, Kingdom's heart, was worn around her neck. Wen Ji's lonely figure stood in the bleak autumn wind. He gave a bitter laugh in his heart, and that bitterness immediately spread through him. Then, he turned and left. Meanwhile, the moment Lu Wanqing saw Ling Jue, her face lit up with joy. When she then caught sight of Li Weiwei sleeping serenely in his arms, a hint of grievance inadvertently showed on her face. She went up to him, trying her best to appear delicate and charming. Ah, Ju, my mother asked why you haven't finished yet. She said she's been waiting for a long time. However, the man in front of her didn't acknowledge her, walking straight past her without even a glance. Lu Wanqing stood awkwardly in place, watching Secretary Zhang open the car door for them, and then the Rolls-Royce started, turned a corner, and disappeared from her sight. Her expression gradually twisted, the venom in her eyes starkly contrasting with her delicate exterior. She even clenched her fists tightly, her fingernails digging deep into her palms, but she seemed unaware. Sister Qingwan, did you see my cousin? The wind was strong outside, so Ling Yuan specifically went to the Bulgari organizer to get a light jacket. When she came out, the Rolls-Royce was already gone. After Ling Jue left the exhibition hall, she didn't know where he went. Luckily, she had Secretary Zhang's number. When she called, she was told his car was parked at the back door. Without Ling Yuan needing to remind her, Lu Wanqing had eagerly run over to wait. She was still wearing Ling Jue's jacket, occasionally lowering her head to inhale the scent of him lingering on the fabric. She thought that if she was lucky, she might even get a ride home in Ling Jue's car. The thought of sitting in that top-tier luxury car, with the man she had liked since childhood by her side, made her jaw ache from smiling. She was immersed in her beautiful fantasy until Ling Jue emerged holding that woman. It was as if a bucket of cold water had been thrown over her, extinguishing her anticipation. Ling Yuan approached and patted her shoulder. Sister Qingwan, I was calling you from behind. Wasn't my cousin's car just parked here? How did it disappear after I was only away for a little while? Lu Wanqing pinched her thigh hard, forcing tears into her eyes, then turned around. Ling Yuan saw her crying, her face delicate like pear blossoms bathed in rain, and quickly comforted her. Tell me what's wrong. You know your own health condition. You can't handle such big emotional ups and downs. Yuan, she sobbed softly, speaking brokenly. Don't get upset with Miss Li of the Li family for my sake anymore. After all, she is your cousin-in-law. Miss Li is a favored daughter of heaven. She gets whatever she wants. I naturally can't compare to her. She covered her face and cried, her voice sounding pitiful. Just like this sapphire on my neck. What's borrowed will never truly be yours. I just saw Li Weiwei. She left with Ah Ju, and that kingdom's heart was on her neck. Clearly my cousin intended to bid on it to give it to you, but Li Weiwei interfered, and even had her mother and Wen Ji cause trouble. My cousin offered He Qianyun double the price, probably wanting to buy it for you as a surprise, but Li Weiwei intercepted it halfway. It must be like that. Ling Yuan finished her sentence, indignant. Sister Qingwan, don't be sad. I'll help you get back what belongs to you. And this sapphire necklace on your neck, since I said it's yours, it's yours. If you refuse again, I'll be angry. Don't cry anymore. My cousin must have been forcibly dragged away by Li Weiwei just now. If he knew you were out here in the cold wind, he'd surely be heartbroken. Let's go in quickly. Ling Yuan was convinced that the last time at Qianyuan, Ling Jue had only pretended to be an affectionate husband with Li Weiwei out of deference to the elders present. Lu Wanqing's mother was a personal nanny hired by Ling Jue's mother during her lifetime. She was honest and diligent. After Ling Jue's mother passed away, she treated him as her own son, caring for him meticulously until she retired a few years ago and moved in with her daughter. Her father was addicted to drugs and gambling, refused to reform, and was currently locked up in a rehabilitation center. The Ling family had funded her violin studies free of charge. She only moved out of the Ling family's Qianyuan and rented a place of her own when she turned 18. Sister Qingwan, don't worry, I'll help you. From childhood to adulthood, no matter how much trouble I caused, you and Aunt Lu always gave me ideas. Lu Wanqing stopped crying and smiled. No matter what. Thank you, Yuan. Yujingwan. Ling Jue carried Li Weiwei back to the room, instructed the maids to prepare a bath, then dismissed them. He gently placed her in the bathtub, then rolled up his sleeves several times. Kneeling on the floor, he meticulously helped her clean her body, without a single distracting thought, carefully wiping, afraid of waking her. When Li Weiwei was asleep, she was so docile that it aroused his pity. The sapphire on her chest was lustrous and crystal clear, sparkling with brilliance, making her appear even more exquisite. Her slender arms and legs, and her boneless, delicate waist, seemed as if they would snap with a slight bend. He needed to exercise some restraint in the future, not be so unrestrained. This chapter is not over. Please click next page to continue reading. If you like, The Day I Returned Home, the wealthy heir dragged me to get married. Please collect it. M. Shahage. Net. The Day I Returned Home, the wealthy heir dragged me to get married. Shahage novel network updates fastest across the entire network. If he could restrain himself. The faint, suggestive marks on Li Weiwei's body, previously concealed by foundation, became visible under the rinse of the hot water. Ling Jue mused. This body was indeed kept delicate. It had been 3 days, and those red and purple marks hadn't fully faded yet. After bathing her, he wrapped her in a large towel, carried her back to the large bed, and covered her with a duvet. There were no clothes of hers in the walk-in closet. Forget it. Ling Jue returned to the bedside, placed Li Weiwei on a thin blanket, wrapped her up, and then helped her take off the sapphire necklace. The indoor temperature was adjusted to a comfortable level. While bathing her just now, his own clothes had gotten wet. He re-entered the bathroom for a quick wash. After he finished, he also returned to the bed, and, with the blanket between them, he pulled her into his embrace. Blindly infatuated. His interest in her began with her beauty, and now he was blindly infatuated. He reached for the phone on the bedside table, scrolled through his contacts for a number, composed a text message, and sent it. Excellent value for money. A pleasure working with you. While one side was filled with tender affection, the other was anything but peaceful. Mom, I told you to call Aju, why didn't you? Qingwan, young master is not a match for a family like ours, and he's already married to Miss Li, who is from a well-matched family. Can you please stop your wishful thinking? Mother Lu advised earnestly. Also, don't always call the young master by his given name, and don't always use me as an excuse to invite him to our home. The Ling family has already done enough for us, mother and daughter. Lu Wanqing heard that even her own mother was telling her not to harbor improper thoughts. She was so angry that she swept all the dishes of dumplings on the dining table onto the floor. If you like, the day I returned home, the wealthy heir dragged me to get married. Please collect it. Shahage. Net. The day I returned home, the wealthy heir dragged me to get married. Shahage novel network updates fastest across the entire network. The day after the Bulgari dinner, Ling Jue flew to Sydney for a business trip. After his private jet landed in Australia, he called Li Weiwei, but she rejected the call. Jiang Yan was the assistant on this trip, as she was familiar with the Sydney branch's operations. The originally scheduled 1-week trip was forcefully cut short to 3 days. Jiang Yan accompanied her big boss, working day and night, attending meetings with senior management of the overseas branch. Stealing a moment of leisure, she called Zhang Qian back in China and grumbled, I've never seen Xiao Ling rush through meetings like this before. Secretary Zhang, with his playful sarcasm, quipped, perhaps he wants to finish the work there quickly and go home to accompany his wife. As soon as Li Weiwei was mentioned, his temples throbbed faintly. The boss had offended this little ancestor and then simply left, leaving her to vent all her anger on him. Has the private room at Fumengshuan been booked yet? Zhang Qian heard someone behind him urging him again and quickly hung up on Jiang Yan. He returned to Li Weiwei, his hands laden with shopping bags from various designer brands. Madam, this restaurant requires a reservation at least 3 days in advance. All the private rooms are full now. It will take some time for them to clear one for us at this dining hour. Shall we wait a little longer, please? He knew Li Weiwei was deliberately making things difficult for him, and he tried to force out a standard smile. Weiwei, don't make things hard for Assistant Zhang anymore. He's been shopping with us all afternoon. Ella stepped in to speak for him, feeling a bit bad herself. They hadn't brought the household maids or driver, and they had been using him all afternoon. Forget it. You can send the things home first. No need to come back. Li Weiwei was typing a draft of Summit of the Firmament on her phone's 26-key keyboard, eager to record the inspiration that flashed in her mind. All right, madam, I'll send the things back to Yujingwan then. Send them where? Li Weiwei finished typing, then tossed her phone directly into her handbag. Her brows, though unpainted, looked dark, and her lips, though unrouged, appeared crimson. She gave him a fleeting glance. Is it back to Yujingwan, right? Secretary Zhang looked at the lazy yet delicate woman before him, and he couldn't help but stutter. The boss really had good fortune with women. No wonder the overseas inspection trip was so tightly scheduled. He must have been thinking of rushing home to accompany his wife. Doesn't the chief assistant excel at reading situations? Where do you think I want them sent back? Zhang Qian lowered his head, not daring to meet Li Weiwei's gaze again. Her expressive and captivating eyes, clear yet alluring, could steal a person's soul. I know where to send them, madam. Please don't play too late outside either. It would be difficult for me to explain to CEO Ling. Li Weiwei slowly closed her eyelids. Go. After Secretary Zhang left, the manager of Fiancé arranged for someone to clear an elegant private room and personally came out to greet them. Li Weiwei couldn't stand his obsequiousness. She and Ella entered the private room, and once the dishes were served, she directly sent him away. Weiwei, how are things progressing between you and CEO Ling? Just like that. Like what? I saw your update a few days ago. The red mole on the venerable master's chest that blushes upon touch. Could it be? Ella pressed for details. Li Weiwei clearly didn't want to engage with her. The lazy Susan on the dining table spun, and she picked up a Buddha jumps over the wall from in front of her. I never thought CEO Ling, who looks so powerful on the outside, would be so pure in matters of love, even blushing. Puffed. Li Weiwei spat out a mouthful of hot soup. Is she not letting me eat? No into it, is there? Him? Pure? He's so rough every time, charging in recklessly. Luckily, her body was resilient. Otherwise, one time with him would cost her half her life. Oh, right. What was the name of his white moonlight? She looked so delicate and fragile. Could she handle it? Asterisk cough, cough. Asterisk was she possessed by a Fujoshi now? She was actually worrying about whether her sham husband's mistress could handle it physically. Disgusting. More nauseating than eating shit. This scoundrel married such a beauty as her, yet he's still tangled with those disreputable women outside. Indeed, no matter how delicious the food at home, it can't compare to the aroma of external excrement. Weiwei, I'm talking to you. Are you even listening? I am listening. Let me tell you this. He's all talk and no action. I've tried it. He's not very good. And finally, stop bringing up topics related to him. It's completely unappetizing. Ella saw Li Weiwei's eyebrows furrowed so tightly they could trap a fly. She seemed genuinely disgusted, so Ella decided to drop the subject altogether and simply asked about the Bulgari dinner. Of course, Li Weiwei omitted the elevator part. As for how Ling Jue had competed against her at the auction, she even exaggerated it. CEO Ling is too much. How could he defend that green tea bitch so openly in front of everyone? Wrong. That's his white moonlight. Oh, never mind. Bitch is bitch. She does look quite bitchy. And he was so impressive. She shelled out $1 billion as soon as she made a move. If CEO Ling had continued to compete, he would have been truly tactless. He's always been a tactless person. The two chatted from the jewelry exhibition to the book Firmament, discussing finding a suitable time to issue a statement to clarify the work. Unbeknownst to them, 2 hours passed. When Li Weiwei and Ella walked out of the private room, they ran head-on into Ling Yuan and Lu Qingwan. How unlucky. Li Weiwei, what a coincidence. To run into you here. Ling Yuan still seemed aggressive, while Lu Qingwan stood behind her, her expression gentle, with an air of aloofness in her eyes. Perfect. The sapphire my cousin bought a few days ago was snatched by you. It was supposed to be given to Sister Qingwan. Hand it over quickly. Li Weiwei, having left the venue, didn't know that Ling Jue had later gone to her mother and bought it from her. Ling Yuan looked smug and pulled Lu Qingwan forward. My cousin spent an extra $1 billion to buy it back from your mother just to make Sister Qingwan happy. That's $2 billion. He really put so much thought into it, but you still snatched it halfway. Do you really like to occupy things that don't belong to you? Ella couldn't listen anymore. This was too bullying. A cousin and a green tea bitch. She mimicked Ling Yuan's tone and, before Li Weiwei could speak, ridiculed them. Our Weiwei is CEO Ling's legitimate wife. Since CEO Ling bought that sapphire, it's naturally for his wife. Is a mistress even qualified? Lu Qingwan felt immense humiliation upon hearing the word mistress. Mistress? She was never a mistress. If she could even be confirmed as a mistress, she would be content. Because, from childhood to adulthood, the times Ling Jue spoke to her were few and far between. Each of their brief conversations had a fixed template. My mother said. He never gave her a chance. Legitimate? They just got a red booklet. What does that count for? How can it compare to the bond my cousin and Sister Qingwan share from growing up together? Ling Yuan affectionately put her arm around Lu Qingwan's shoulder, and the two walked up to Li Weiwei. You probably don't know, but Sister Qingwan flew to Singapore the day before your wedding. Maybe that's why my cousin had a change of heart at the last minute. Yuan, let's just leave. If Ju finds out you're saying all this, he'll be angry. Lu Qingwan neither denied nor admitted it. Perhaps out of guilt, her voice lacked conviction when she spoke. Hearing this, Ling Yuan became even more relentless. Sister Qingwan, don't be afraid. Other than her good family background and pretty face, what else does she have on you? My cousin isn't a superficial person. Aren't those 2 points enough? As long as my name is etched on that red booklet, Ling Yuan, you still have to respectfully call me cousin-in-law. Li Weiwei yawned, unfazed, taking it as a compliment to herself. After a full day of shopping, she wasn't in the mood to deal with them here. As for that sapphire necklace, tell Ling Jue to come and get it from me himself. It's just a stone. I have as many as I want. I don't find it that rare. After saying this, she and Ella left. Ling Yuan hadn't expected to provoke her so much, yet she wasn't angry at all. On the way home, Ella couldn't stand the smug expressions of Ling Yuan and her companion, feeling indignant on Li Weiwei's behalf. I'll draft a divorce agreement as soon as I get back and fax it directly to Sydney. What? To grant him his wish, I'm going to make space for his white moonlight. Li Weiwei had originally intended to save face for both families and end the marriage after a year or so. But with Ling Yuan and Lu Qingwan coming to disgust her, she felt it was necessary to put an end to it. She was a woman of action. After parting ways with Ella, she asked Secretary Zhang for Jiang Yan's fax number. When the signed divorce agreement was faxed to Sydney, Ling Jue was still in a quarterly meeting. For the past 2 days, he had been working almost nonstop, holding back-to-back meetings with executives from various departments at the branch office since his private jet arrived in Australia. When Jiang Yan entered with the fax document from home, he was the only one in the large conference room. The coffee in his hand had just run out. He rubbed his temples, a hint of weariness hidden in his usually sharp eyes. Mr. Ling, this is what Madam asked me to give you. Jiang Yan walked up to him and placed the agreement on the table. A divorce agreement. The signature at the bottom was Li Weiwei's, in elegant handwriting. Ling Jue felt his head beginning to ache. He had just gone abroad, and the divorce agreement followed right on his heels. Mr. Ling, did you make Madam angry? From what I heard on the phone just now, she sounded quite resolute. Ling Jue crumpled the agreement into a ball and tossed it into the wastebasket. His weariness vanished in an instant. Divorce? Don't even think about it. Jiang Yan, tell me, what exactly is she upset about? Jiang Yan, hearing him use her given name, knew he wasn't asking her as a subordinate now. Senior, did you have a disagreement with Miss Li before you came to Sydney? Disagreement? They'd never gotten along harmoniously. As for disagreement, it might be because he had forcibly done things with her without her permission. Though it didn't go all the way, it was close enough. Young women Madam's age need to be coaxed. Go on. Ling Jue gestured for her to continue. Senior, you could indulge her, go along with her, spoil her, and try your best to meet her demands. Ling Jue shook his head, a serious expression on his face. She wants to divorce me. I can't fulfill that. Arrange a private jet immediately, return home first. What? Jiang Yan was incredulous. The overseas itinerary was only 1 day from completion, and the remaining part was the most crucial. The big boss, who had always worked himself to the bone, was actually saying he'd return just like that. It can be done online, Mr. Ling. Ling Jue did not adopt her suggestion. This quarterly meeting was to discuss Hua Ling's investment projects in Sydney for the coming year, requiring extreme caution. How about this? You stay here for now, and tomorrow, arrange for them to come to the head office. We'll continue then. Li Weiwei didn't go back to the Li family villa. She was sure to get a scolding from her father if she did, because she had just called He Qinyan to ask about the sapphire. Her mother told her that Ling Jue had indeed paid a hefty price to buy that necklace from her, and also told them, as a couple, to live their lives well. Nionieo, you need to look at people with your heart. Don't be easily swayed by a few words from others. This was the last thing her mother said before hanging up. In addition, Mrs. He also told her to give up the idea of divorce, saying that if Li Zhongming found out she was treating the marriage as a game, father and daughter would certainly have a big fight. A game? Li Weiwei sighed. From beginning to end, they were the ones who treated her marriage as a game, never once asking for her, the person involved, her wishes. She had been perfectly fine in Barcelona. only to be tricked back home by her family, then forced into it, inexplicably becoming a married woman. Her husband also had a spoiled and difficult cousin, and an affected white moonlight. Thinking of this, Li Weiwei got angry. That brutal intimacy in the enclosed elevator on the night of the Bulgari banquet. Now when she thought of it, beyond fear, there was more an overwhelming sense of mortified shame. He actually used. She figured he must have done such things often. A phone call to Secretary Zhang. No need to say much, he knew the ropes, understood everything. Li Weiwei still returned to Royal View Bay. Anyway, her plastic husband wasn't home. With so many servants attending to her in that mansion, it was certainly more comfortable than staying in a hotel. After a full day of hassle, she was tired. Returning to Royal View Bay, a dozen maids eagerly came forward, falling over themselves to show their attentiveness. "Madam, are you hungry? Do you need me to prepare a late-night snack?" "Madam, I've prepared your bathwater. Why don't you have a comfortable soak to relax?" "Madam, Mr. Ling just called back, asking if you've returned home. He said if you're back, to remember to call him back." Li Weiwei casually dismissed them and went upstairs alone. After washing up, she flopped down on the king-sized bed in the master bedroom, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. Ling Jue's calls rang twice, but she ignored them. Li Weiwei buried her face in the pillow. It still carried the man's scent. This pillow. Wait, wasn't this the pillow he used to put under her buttocks last time? Not just this pillow. She scanned every corner of the room, and those vivid frames of memory flooded her mind, clear as day. This is crazy. She didn't even bother to put on her slippers, fleeing out of the room as if her life depended on it. "Someone, please clean up the guest room." The maids rushed over upon hearing, and although they didn't know what Madame was planning, they still complied. When Ling Jue arrived in Ningxing, it was already around 4 in the afternoon the next day. After his private jet landed, he went straight back to Imperial Bay. Last night, the servants had called him to say that Li Weiwei had returned to Imperial Bay. He instructed them to keep an eye on her and not let her leave the house. Ling Jue went upstairs and saw the scene before him. Li Weiwei was wearing a warm yellow house dress, like a docile little kitten, lazily napping on the soft couch on the balcony. On the easel beside her was a half-finished painting of La Rambla, with the Canalitas fountain spraying water into the air. The afternoon sun gently fell upon Li Weiwei. Her skin was like creamy jade, her face like white marble, and that fleeting yet eternally radiant beauty made him unconsciously hold his breath. At that moment, the warm sun was faint, and the world was silent, but the burning longing accumulated in his heart was deafening. He walked over unhurriedly, picked up the blanket that had fallen on the ground, and gently covered her with it. "My lazy cat." The man's voice was deep and rich, and his tall frame blocked the sunlight spilling onto her face. Li Weiwei slowly opened her eyes, meeting a pair of long, deep eyes. Why was he back? She remembered Secretary Zhang saying he wouldn't be back until tomorrow at the earliest. She must be dreaming, because the Ling Jue in reality wouldn't stare at her with such tender affection. Li Weiwei closed her eyes again, until the man's warm, moist breath brushed her cheek and his lips found her luscious red ones. Gentle and lingering. Her almond-shaped eyes suddenly flew open, realizing all of this was truly happening. She abruptly pushed him away. She glanced at the travel-worn man in front of her, then turned her head away, not wanting to look at him. "Still want a divorce?" Ling Jue asked unhurriedly. What did he mean still? She had always wanted one. All right. Li Weiwei directly pulled out the sapphire from under the soft couch and threw it at his feet. The gem sparkled even more dazzlingly under the sunlight. "I don't want your things. Take it back. Give it to whoever you want." Ling Jue's eyes grew colder. Did she really disdain what he gave her so much? If it were Wenji, would she happily accept it then? Li Weiwei was definitely not jealous. She felt she had become a substitute for his white moonlight. There were clear signs. Lu Qingwan had worn a plain cheongsam and a sapphire necklace at the Bulgari dinner. On the eve of their wedding, she had even specially flown to Singapore, and then Ling Jue had wavered, causing him to miss the wedding. And since he couldn't refuse the business benefits that marrying her brought, he planned to string her along. She was a favored daughter of heaven and couldn't endure such humiliation. "Ling Jue, have you signed the agreement yet?" Ling Jue let out a sneer. What's that laugh supposed to mean? Do you usually act so sarcastic with your Qingwan too? Li Weiwei felt he was an insatiable, cunning businessman. I tore up the agreement. Our wedding will be held next month. For now, you will stay put at home and not leave. Ling Jue clearly didn't want to continue this discussion with her. He dropped that remark and left the balcony. With just that one sentence, Li Weiwei's personal freedom was restricted. She called her family for help, but they all advised her to use this month to properly cultivate their marital relationship. After leaving home, Ling Jue went straight to the company. Li Weiwei finished dinner at Imperial Bay and thought about going out to find Ella, but she was stopped by bodyguards at the main gate. Mr. Ling has instructed that Madam is not allowed to leave. Had he really imprisoned her? Madam, please don't make it difficult for them. Why don't you call Mr. Ling and act a little spoiled? He might lift the ban for you. A maid stepped forward to advise her. She was the one who had spoken to Ling Jue on the phone last night, and she could tell he cared deeply about Madam. Li Weiwei, clad in fuzzy indoor slippers, returned to her second-floor bedroom without looking back. The room she had asked the servants to prepare last night was at the end of the corridor, not far from Ling Jue's master bedroom. She found her phone, intending to call him, but saw a multimedia message had arrived in her inbox about 10 minutes ago. She casually opened it. The man in the photo, wasn't he her plastic husband, who had just left the house this afternoon? Lu Qingwan was sitting beside him, her face full of shy charm, even serving him food into his bowl, looking virtuous and considerate. Below the message was a caption, "My Wan, quickly into my bowl." This was blatant provocation, but it was useless. She didn't love him, so she didn't take it to heart at all. He was having dinner with his lover over there, yet he had put her under house arrest here. Outrageous. Appalling. Li Weiwei opened her computer and logged into Chuangwen's website again. She was now updating her writing in a casual, Buddha-like manner. To cultivate divine power, one must castrate oneself, consume elixirs, and connect inner and outer paths. Last time, the peony flower demon's seduction ended with her death by her master's blade. She suddenly began to sympathize with the female cannon fodder she had written about. Perhaps her master had been substituted with a certain man, and she suddenly wanted to teach him a lesson. Only by severing this root of impurity. She typed haphazardly on the keyboard, following her whims. She wrote until 10 o'clock that night. Just as she saved her finished draft, the room door was pushed open. Li Weiwei quickly shut down her computer, feeling a bit guilty, like a thief caught in the act. Ling Jue watched her feigned composure, but didn't press the matter. He walked closer to her, grabbed her wrist, trying to pull her out of the room, but she slapped his hand away fiercely. Li Weiwei's voice held an irresistible haughty arrogance. "I'm going to sleep now, get out." But before she could move away, Ling Jue reached out, hooked an arm around her, and pulled her into his embrace. Ling Jue's strong, muscular body pressed over her, pinning her hands and pushing her onto the table. His seductive, foxy eyes that curved inwards and outwards gleamed with a shimmering light, reflecting only her silhouette. Li Weiwei struggled desperately. It was just an act for appearances. Why was he playing it so seriously? Be good. Don't always make me angry. His low, husky, suppressed voice penetrated her eardrums, and the undisguised desire in his eyes reached deep into hers. Immediately after, the world seemed to spin. Li Weiwei felt herself suddenly lift into the air. Ling Jue clasped her waist and lifted her onto the table. With a clatter and crash, the items on the table were swept off, and her laptop was heavily thrown to the ground along with them. Her save drafts. In desperation, Li Weiwei fumbled for her phone on the edge of the table, unlocked it with her fingerprint, and swiped to the multimedia message photo. "Don't go too far. Is this fun for you?" Ling Jue saw the photo, his breath caught, spoiling the mood. He knew she had misunderstood. Ling Jue had indeed gone to the company after leaving home, then received a call from Ling Yuan saying Lu Qingwan's mother was ill, which was why he went to her house to visit. As for the dishes on the dining table, he hadn't touched a single bite, let alone what was in his own bowl. He didn't stay long at Lu Qingwan's either. He was back late because he had just made a trip to the Li family's house. "I'll tell you again, you are my only woman. The position of Mrs. Ling belongs exclusively to you." The room was brightly lit, and the sincerity and devotion in his eyes were revealed without reservation. Li Weiwei was lost in his affectionate gaze, her tingling heart seemingly collapsing an inch in an instant. Were these unexpected words of his an expression of his true feelings? That sapphire, from the very beginning, was meant to be bought for my wife. Ling Jue had heard He Qianyun mention tonight that Li Weiwei thought he was going to give the sapphire to Lu Qingwan. Connecting this with her words on the balcony this afternoon, he guessed a few things and proactively explained. He didn't know why he was voluntarily explaining all this. He had always thought that his feelings for Li Weiwei were initially just a man's desire to win, and after marrying her, he couldn't help but want to tease her, disliked her ignoring him, and also wanted to do unspeakable things with her. He prided himself on cultivating his character, believing that being swayed by lust would be vulgar, yet when it came to his little wife, his desire made him lose his good sense. Liar. Li Weiwei's face was playfully naive, her earlier temper gone, probably because he had proactively explained. The path to a woman's heart is a winding, narrow road below the navel. That statement was absolutely correct. Her change might have been because they had once shared the most intimate relationship. I'm not lying to you. Ling Jue noticed her subtle shift. A faint blush had crept onto her cheeks, making them look rosy and very alluring. What are you thinking about? His low, husky voice sounded again, as if bewitching one's mind. Li Weiwei turned her face away, not looking at him, but Ling Jue's burning kiss landed, pressing onto the corner of her eye. Where her gaze fell, she could just see the man's sexy Adam's apple subtly rolling. Ling Jue, don't get too close to me, I'm not used to it. Their breaths intertwined, growing more intense, as if something was about to ignite. I'll teach you what zero distance means, good girl, hold me tight. He coaxed her with extreme patience, and Li Weiwei's heartstrings trembled violently. She was also losing control. No, she had to hold her ground, not easily crumble under his coaxing. Little thing, do you like me treating you like this? He tempted her patiently, his large hand restlessly wanting to lift the hem of her skirt. No, my little liar. Li Weiwei felt she couldn't let things spiral further out of control. Ling Jue, ours is a contractual marriage. You can't always be touching me. Ling Jue visibly froze, then continued to unbutton her top. His hurried breaths brushed against Li Weiwei's ear, frighteningly hot. Who wants a contractual marriage with you? I'll not only touch you, but I'll also use other parts to really move you, really cherish you. How could this man just blurt out such crude words? Pleasure without an emotional foundation was like animals routinely mating. She resisted it deeply in her heart. Although she had said last time that being bitten once by a dog was a bite, and being bitten 100 times was also a bite, those were words spoken in anger. Ling Jue, you can't be like this, thinking of tricking me into doing this with you the moment we meet. If you have too much energy and nowhere to vent, you can go find other women outside. Ling Jue listened to her earnest words, but did not stop his actions. Instead, he cradled her hips with both hands, walked to the bed, placed her on it, pulled the hem of his shirt out from his belt, and began unbuttoning his own clothes. Have you forgotten? The way you gasped and panted beneath me last time, you were clearly enjoying it. He took off his shirt. The muscle definition on his body was full of power, firm, and taut. Get away from me. I don't like doing it with you. I feel dirty. You just came back from another woman's place. Your clothes still have her perfume scent. The moment you touch me, I feel disgusted. Disgusted? Ling Jue finally stopped his actions, repeating her words haltingly. You don't like doing it with me? You think I'm dirty? You feel disgusted the moment I touch you. The tenderness and affection in his eyes had vanished, replaced by a layer of frost, terrifyingly cold and biting. Li Weiwei, you're really something. After saying this, he picked up the clothes he had casually thrown on the floor and left the room. The door was slammed shut, and only then did Li Weiwei come back to her senses. He left? He left as she wished, so why did she feel a pang of wistful loss? This man must have poisoned her with a Miaojiang love potion. Never mind, it was better that he left anyway. Meanwhile, Ling Jue returned to the master bedroom and directly dialed a number. If you dare to spread rumors about my wife again, I'll send you all to Niger. Niger is a landlocked country in Africa. Its national economy is destitute, and various infectious diseases are rampant, making it one of the most unsuitable regions for survival globally. After saying this, he didn't give the other party a chance to explain and just hung up the phone. Over the years, it wasn't that he didn't know what his cousin had colluded with outsiders to do behind his back. Those socialites and career women who threw themselves at him were all rebuffed by them, and he gained some peace, so he simply turned a blind eye. But this time was different. He was afraid that the constant rumors outside would affect the harmony of his marriage. Ling Jue regretted it in the empty master bedroom. He shouldn't have left just now. Now, would it be too late to go back? Never mind. Take it slow. Don't scare her. Once she was willing to fully accept him, he would definitely have his fill. On the other end of the phone, Lu Qingwan held her phone tightly, frozen for a long time, her fingertips already turning white. She hadn't expected that the first time the man she loved called her, it would be to threaten her on behalf of his beloved. She was so unwilling. Tonight's photos were secretly taken by Ling Yuan, and Lu Mu was also in them, but she had only cropped the two of them, herself and Ling Jue. She clearly hadn't done anything, yet he called to warn her. If he had the guts, he should go find trouble with his cousin. Thinking of this, she dialed Ling Jue back, but it rang for a while and no one answered. She definitely had to defend herself, at least clear her own name first. The ringing stopped, and she dialed again. This time it directly showed in call. Had he set up a block? Lu Qingwan screamed like a madwoman, smashing her phone to smithereens. Lord Zhang's writing style isn't as sharp as it used to be. The plot, however, has become a bit more nuanced. Lu Pingzhang has constantly been leveling up and battling monsters, overcoming every obstacle one after another. Although he's already been promoted to Venerable Master, he's still in his prime, with his heart set on cultivating Dao to save the common people. Fahai has a green snake to help him cultivate. Big boss, why not give him one too? Bullshit, this is male-oriented fiction. If you want to read those lovey-dovey stories, go read female-oriented fiction. I think this is great. The Venerable Master disdains mortal desires. He should find the world-splitting divine axe to slay demons as soon as possible. Chop the final boss to death with one stroke. Perfect. Throws flowers. It's impossible for romance to appear. You should ask me instead. Zhang Tianxiao was at my house yesterday, drinking tea with my grandpa. Asterisk proud. JPG asterisk. Below this comment, hundreds of replies quickly stacked up, some envious, some skeptical. Replies poured in endlessly. Ling Yuan was online at this moment. With a swift move, she sent a rocket, showing her generosity. She firmly held the top spot on the reader's donation list. She was convinced that an author the same age as her grandpa was unlikely to write about romantic entanglements. Li Weiwei suddenly had an idea. Indeed, there was a lack in character development. If some normal human emotions were added as seasoning, the characters would become more full and three-dimensional. So, should she introduce a female cannon fodder for the Venerable Master? She hadn't been in a proper romantic relationship, but she did have practical experience. Forget it. She'd just bite the bullet and write something random. 2 hours later, the comment section exploded again. Venerable Master is weak, can't last long. 666. Could Venerable Master be a thin dog? There's a mole on his chest. He blushes at a touch. Oh no, why do I have such a vivid image? This is what my esteemed VIP membership should be getting. To cultivate the art of immortality, one must nourish yin and supplement yang on a full moon night. Holy crap, where are the details? I have a friend who says he wants to see. Venerable Master obtained the precious mirror of flower appreciation, studied it diligently, and grasped its essence. What kind of wolf-tiger words are these? It shouldn't be that pleasure-inducing historical anecdotes book, right? The Venerable Master couldn't possibly be homosexual. Brother Tianzhan really knows how to stretch things. Venerable Master tasted lust for the first time, with no time for cultivation. One day, he met a vigorous old immortal. And then, after indulging in female beauty, he stops cultivating immortality? Is this going to be rewritten as an erotic novel? No desire is good. Desire is evil. He had an epiphany and wanted to cut down the peony flower spirit with his blade. Shocked. I took off my pants for this. Is this romance line just padding the word count? The Venerable Master isn't a good guy either. He enjoyed himself and then killed the flower demon. You should at least wait until you find the world-splitting divine axe before chopping. She had tried her best to elaborate on the details, but she didn't know where to start, and the writing only got worse. The venerable master was aloof and abstinent, yet in his bottomless eyes, a tempest of fiery, surging deep-sea waves churned. His hands were exquisitely formed, slender and delicate. When playing the zither, his vibrato became excessive, the rhythm lost its steadiness, and the peony flower, under the venerable master's caress, was on the verge of blossoming, forced to endure his warm irrigation. The peony flower spirit transformed into human form. Her delicate red lips lingered on his enchanting red mole, instantly igniting the dormant desire within the venerable master's body. Ah! Weiwei slapped her cheeks hard. Her cheeks were burning hot, and even her earlobes flushed with a delightful blush. She really couldn't write anymore. It was too dirty. She'd just arranged for the female cannon fodder to receive her bento box. Ling Yuan's avatar flashed, and she sent a private message. Didn't expect you to be such a grandpally. Asterisk depressed. JPG asterisk. Li Weiwei replied with its Sundara emoji. Asterisk pat head. JPG asterisk. After sending successfully, she felt it was inappropriate. Sure enough, Ling Yuan's avatar turned gray. She had gone offline. It's over. She must think Zhang Tianxia is a creepy grandpa. Soon, Summit of the Azure Sky was trending on social media. Opinions were mixed. Some netizens criticized the author for using vulgar and low-grade content to gain traffic. What the heck? She was already very subtle. Wasn't it this generation of readers who were too dirty? She'd have to buy a ton of stain remover to scrub their brain circuits clean. Li Guoping's call slammed over. Unfilial descendant, you've ruined my masterpiece. Zhang Tianxia, the titan of online literature, was the former head of Jingchuan Capital. Besides his family, only the CEO of Chuansuan Group and 2 or 3 close friends knew this. As for Li Weiwei continuing to write this novel for him, only the original author himself, Ella, and the hacker who stole her account and password half a year ago were aware. Li Weiwei's eyes curved into crescents. The condemnations in the comments section were drowned out by praise. It seemed the vast majority of readers were on board. Quickly find an opportunity to issue a clarification, stating that this was all written nonsensically by my good granddaughter. My old friends all think I'm acting inappropriately for my age. Li Guoping on the phone, changing from his usual gentle demeanor, was cussing and grumbling, not knowing where to put his old face. He was ashamed just looking at the suggestive plots updated today. A girl like her, how does she know how to write such things? Shameless. Grandpa, you should congratulate me. This novel, Azure Sky, was previously only #1 on the Chuansuan platform's rankings. Now it's #1 on the hot list across all channels. She was smug, her phone covering half of her bright face. All right, old man, don't worry. I'll find a suitable time to make it public and won't ruin your lifelong reputation. Handle it as soon as possible. After saying this, the other end of the phone directly cut the call. As soon as Li Guoqing hung up, He Qinyin's call came in. Tonight, the Ningxing General Chamber of Commerce Exhibition Center was hosting a Bulgari banquet event, with political and business elites and international movie stars attending in splendor. She also wanted to seize this opportunity to formally introduce their Li family's little princess to the public. Hua Ling Consortium. Ling Jue suffered from insomnia, finding it difficult to fall asleep and having very short sleep times. But last night, aside from initially trying hard to suppress the restlessness within him, he had a good night's sleep. All of this was thanks to his newlywed young wife. Not only could she warm the bed, but she also had a sleep-inducing effect. Mr. Ling, you seem to be in a good mood today. Zhang Qian brought a document for Ling Jue to sign. It was the first time he saw the big boss lost in thought during work hours, a faint, almost imperceptible smile lingering at the corner of his mouth. TSK. Had the iron tree blossomed after 10,000 years? He had heard Secretary Jiang mention the madam from Yujingwan. Ling Jue usually didn't show his emotions, and others couldn't fathom his thoughts. He took the document, carefully read through all the terms and content, and after confirming there were no issues, picked up the fountain pen on the desk and signed his name. His strokes were bold and unrestrained, his handwriting reflecting his character, with a sharp, soaring quality, as if about to break through the paper. Oh right, Mr. Ling, The butler from Qinyuan just called the secretary's office and said that Madam has already left. It seems she's going to attend a Bulgari banquet. Still a brief reply. Ling Jue didn't even lift his head, as if what was being said had nothing to do with him and he didn't care to know. However, the next second, send me the address and time, and also cancel my evening engagements. The chapter of night slowly drew open its curtain. Bulgari's new product launch was a scene of clinking glasses, dazzling and extravagant. Weiwei, clad in a dark green spaghetti strap gown, had her hair swept up to reveal a full, smooth forehead. A high slit showcased a pair of long, slender, jade-like legs, her delicate shoulders bare to the air, with diamond straps so delicate they looked as if they could snap at a touch. Her skin was as white as snow, and she swayed gracefully as she walked, instantly becoming the focus of the entire banquet upon entering. Her charming smile, her captivating gaze, every frown and every smile, was deeply moving, pure yet alluring, especially her eyes, which outshone even the most dazzling, top-tier jewels worn by socialites, debutantes, and international movie stars. This girl is truly exquisite. How come I've never seen her in our circles before? A socialite whispered to her companion. She generally knew all the well-known socialites and heiresses in the upper crust. The invited guests for this evening's banquet are all either rich or powerful. It's my first time seeing her too. Who knows, maybe she's some rich merchant or powerful official's mistress kept on the side. Another socialite chimed in, her face barely concealing a hint of disdain. Because ultra-list movie stars would wear Bulgari's new products for the wealthy wives to choose from. They judged she wasn't from the entertainment industry. That can't be. How could someone from a humble background be raised so delicately? Oh, by the way, I heard Jingchuang's eldest daughter is also coming tonight. Could it be her? Look, the one bowing and scraping next to her is Assistant Meng, the president of Bulgari Asia-Pacific's assistant. This woman must have a significant background. Look, the one bowing and scraping next to her is Assistant Meng, the president of Bulgari Asia-Pacific's assistant. This woman must have a significant background. What are you talking about? The news of the marriage alliance between the Li family's daughter and President Ling of Ling Group caused quite a stir online a few days ago. I heard the bride was so ugly President Ling got scared and fled abroad, and they might announce the termination of their engagement soon. Yet another socialite joined their gossip. A few days ago, when I went to Yumen for a beauty treatment, I chatted with Miss Ling. I heard President Ling only agreed to marry her because of pressure from Elder Master Ling. Apparently, his heart's true desire is for Lu Qingwan. Mrs. Chen of Boulay Group also came over, casually toying with the gold-green cat's eye bracelet on her wrist, and scoffed. There's a good show coming up. Lu Qingwan is also a distinguished guest at this banquet and will arrive with Miss Ling shortly. Do you think they'll start a catfight? Distinguished guest? That mere fiddle player? No family, no background, and she's allowed in here? The host must have invited her only for Hua Ling's sake, right? It's just a matter of adding an extra chair to please President Ling. Li Weiwei walked to a corner and answered a call from Miss He, who said she was delayed and would arrive later. Assistant Ming, please go attend to your business if you have any. You don't need to look after me. That won't do. Our CEO Wang specifically instructed me to take good care of Miss Li. You are the most distinguished guest at this banquet, and if anything were to go wrong, our president would also be held accountable. This ancestor was not only Jingchuang's little princess, but also Hua Ling's CEO's wife. He had to be very careful. Li Weiwei smiled sheepishly, her mind elsewhere. She took a sip of red wine from her goblet, its rich aroma spreading through her lips and teeth. Her gaze shifted, her eyelashes fluttered lightly, a hint of tipsiness in her eyes, her posture languid yet exuding arrogance. Her figure and face were of peerless beauty, and male guests were already stirring with desire. They had been captivated by her from the moment she entered, thinking that if they could spend a night with such a captivating beauty, what was there to fear in death? To die beneath the peony, even as a ghost, is to be romantic. Some men were already stirring with desire, stepping towards that graceful figure. Beautiful lady, the night is long, and it's hard to sleep alone, isn't it? How about later? I find a place for us to have another drink. The first to approach her was young Master Chun of Boulay Group. His family business was cosmetics, and he was a notorious playboy in the circle, known for keeping mistresses and toying with actresses, infamous for his misdeeds. Li Weiwei frowned, giving him an annoyed sidelong glance. A beauty's frown held a unique charm, and the other rich young men following young Master Chen couldn't help but stare, mesmerized. Just a moment ago, Assistant Meng had mentioned having an urgent matter and stepped away for a short while, and they had probably seen her alone and mustered the courage to approach. The man before her was frivolous in his demeanor and vulgar in his speech, one hand restlessly reaching out to touch her shoulder and neck, trying to take advantage. "Come with me, beautiful. I guarantee you an unforgettable night." He had already made inquiries, and Mrs. Chen had told him this woman was probably some CEO's mistress kept on the side, just using what she had to find something better, here to hook a rich man. Li Weiwei's displeasure surged, and she directly splashed the red wine from her glass onto the man's face. Crimson wine stains splattered from his face onto his white suit. Damn it, he was disheveled and furious. "Mother, look at what you are. It's your good fortune to be noticed by this young master. Don't be ungrateful. Mr. Wang, the president of Bulgaria Asia Pacific, is my uncle. If you offend me here, you won't have a good time. You might as well just obey me." He wiped the wine from the corner of his mouth with his thumb, then provocatively licked it. "With such delicate skin, you wouldn't be able to handle playing S.M. with this young master." The commotion naturally drew the attention of other guests in the banquet hall. The people around them looked like they were watching a good show. The host hadn't revealed whose daughter she was, probably because her identity was awkward, not presentable, and difficult to mention. Li Weiwei had studied Taekwondo, and subduing a lewd man was well within her capabilities, but she was wearing an evening gown with a slit that went high up to her upper thigh, and she could easily expose herself with a slight mishap. Young Master Chun of Boulay Group still tried to grab her hand. Crack, a crisp, sharp sound, like a branch snapping. "Ah, my hand." Young Master Chen shrieked in agony, his face contorted with pain. His hand tendons had been deliberately severed. Then he was kicked hard in the stomach, directly thrown to the ground. He coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood, feeling as though his internal organs had shifted. "Our little princess is someone you could dare to covet? Breaking one hand is getting off easy. State your name. Which family's young master are you? I'll turn you into a stray dog." Young Master Chun, curled up, tremblingly looked up. He recognized the man towering over him. With that one look, he knew he was finished. The top-tier hacker whose reputation was soaring, a tech magnate of the internet, and the head of a world-renowned cybersecurity firm. Most notably, he served as a cybersecurity consultant for the FBI, and even American politicians held him in high regard. "Mr. One, I didn't know she was your companion. I was blind to the truth. Please, I beg you to spare me just this once." Wen Ji disdained to acknowledge him, signaling for someone to carry him out. Mrs. Chun, among the crowd, dared not voice any objection. This good-for-nothing. How could people like them, who dealt in cosmetics, possibly compete with someone in tech? "Brother Wen, I heard you were coming, so I specifically arrived early to wait for you." Li Weiwei playfully blinked her eyes, intimately linked arms with him, her voice soft and sweet, looking utterly well-behaved. Everyone suddenly understood. So she was Mr. Wen's companion. No wonder the host was so obsequious. Assistant Meng, having hastily finished his work, returned to the exhibition hall just in time to see four burly men carrying young Master Chen out. Glass shards on the floor were stained with red liquid, a nauseating mix of red wine and blood. He quickly ordered someone to clean it up, then turned and bowed to Li Weiwei and Wen Ji to apologize. "It was our inadequate hospitality that startled you two distinguished guests. Perhaps I should lead you two to the VIP lounge to rest first, and then invite you out when the exhibition officially begins." Li Weiwei nodded, and under Assistant Meng's guidance, she and Wen Ji left the venue, leaving behind the murmuring crowd.